Hmm. Hey, Lori. Hi, can you unmute just a minute? Oh,
Yes,
there.
sorry.
Just you and me. Well, I
The
say everyone
kitchen,
else here.
well, no, my kitchen is a flurry of activity, but things are settling down.
Oh, okay. Oh, I
Somebody
didn't.
just said to me, "Isn't your meeting about to start?"
Oh, yeah.
Um,
So I
yeah.
don't know why this happened last time. We're co-hosting, and I don't know how to unhost so that you're the only host. And
Well,
yet,
so that's what took me a minute because you said, "Hi, Lori." And then I
yeah, I
had all
thought,
these buttons in front of me I had to choose from, and it said reclaim co-host. So
yeah.
I
So,
I
so you
re
did
no
that,
no reclaim host. So I
right?
reclaimed the host.
Yeah. So I'm still
Um,
on. I have no
you're
interest in being.
co-host.
What's that?
You're a co-host
Yeah,
now.
I'm a co-host, but I
So you
will.
must be logging on under the Dover Zoom,
I think what it is, that's what my computer remembered
and
from when I
that's
hosted.
okay. I mean, it's okay to have two hosts. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Well, no,
when
I was trying to figure out how do I get out of it.
you don't have to do anything. I just I mean, I still will let people in and all that kind of thing. Janet's going to ask me to screen share for someone who um is working from his phone because she already told him I would, but I don't think as a host I'm able to do that. And also I don't really, I've never done it. So
Mhm.
I'm going to pass it on to maybe, I don't know, Amy or somebody else. Tim is
So,
not coming tonight. He's my screen share person I always go to, but
well, and
so
that seems
no
to,
Jim, no Tim.
yep, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let me take a look here.
And we
Um,
have the first two items are continued.
oh,
And
45,
also
45, 45 and 22.
Yes.
Oh,
So that
okay.
I don't believe they're even coming.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so then
No, it lightened up, because also 12 and 14 Miller is continued
and yes,
and
and
29
also
Saddle.
29 Saddle
Yeah.
Ridge.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So there
Okay.
I go with my organized time frames. I don't quite know what happens. You're not really supposed to start hearings early, but the selectmen
Oh,
do it.
right, right. Well, I think if people are here, we can go ahead. So, we start,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So, and then we can move things, whoever is here, we can move through
Move
that.
things around and
So,
maybe Will from 31 Springdale will want to go earlier and
mhm.
things like that. So
Okey
yeah.
doke. Well then why don't you go ahead
Yes,
and open things up?
let's first admit the members, Sarah, Anna, Amy. Yeah, it's John Glossa who wanted someone else to do the screen share, I think. I thought it was Dave Marquidant, but maybe there's a couple people.
And where's
Um,
John from? What address?
John Glossa is for 62 Claybrook,
Oh, I see. Got it. Hmm.
and
Huh.
Marquidant is One Bridle Path Circle. But
Got it.
maybe Amy will do that when she joins. Hi, Anna. Hi, Sarah.
That's right. Hey.
Oh, here's Amy.
Janet says she's waiting if she's at the right point.
She is. We're just getting around to we're a couple minutes behind, but here we go.
So John, I hope it's okay, but I need to bag off at like 9:30.
I saw that. Yeah. No, I heard you're just getting older and need to get to bed earlier. Is that
Well,
what the
it's
deal is?
two back-to-back town meetings.
I'm
Well,
in that team too.
This is
that
no, but I have an early morning commitment, so
yeah, I
I'm
saw
fine.
that. No,
I,
I'm
and
just caution.
I didn't want to screw up the whole thing,
Well,
but
it turns out you may be okay because we may be okay because we've had a number of continuances, so we may
right.
be to get be able to get
Right.
there.
So
We
at least
might
I'll
all be around 9:30.
At least it'll get you guys to the discussion part.
So yeah, universal karma maybe. No, so
Yeah.
we'll okay. I think we're all set to open things up. And then we'll go through the introduction, and then I'll bring up that several of these continuances, including the first two. Okay.
Okay, we'll admit there's some people waiting.
Well, and we also have, so we have 1, 2, yeah, we have 4. So we're
Yes, yes.
we're ready to rock and roll. Okay, so is that everyone? So far?
Everyone so far.
Okey-doke. Well, welcome everyone to the Town of Dover, Massachusetts Conservation Commission hearing for May 8th, 2024. And let's see, Laura, if you can just read off our legal permission to have a Zoom meeting for this.
Following guidance issued by the governor regarding open meeting law, this public meeting will be held remotely. Individuals wishing to participate may do so by using Zoom video conferencing technology to join the meeting by video. Using a computer or tablet, you may click on the link listed on the agenda to join by phone. You can call the phone number listed on the agenda and enter the ID and passcode. And the meeting is being recorded.
Okay, thank you. So welcome everyone. Just to let people know, I've just been notified that we've started to implement the time frame for hearings, and tonight the first two have continued. I think one was for additional information. The other one, we don't have a DEP number. So the first one up a half hour early, or 20 minutes early, is One Bridle Path. Is anybody here from One Bridle Path? Is that Dave?
Yes, good evening. My name is Dave Marquardt.
Hi, how are you? So I just wanted to
How
make
are
sure
you?
you were here.
Yep.
And so are you the engineer, the homeowner? What's
I'm the engineer, and Rama, the owner and applicant, is also on the call.
okay, I see you. Him, her, I don't know. Let's see, Janet, can you give us a breakdown of what we'll be looking at?
Sure. So this is fairly straightforward. As outlined in my report, the resource area in this case is riverfront. There is no BVW, so it's riverfront and back. I did have a chance to go out. We did get the DEP data forms. I walked the site. I confirmed the wetland delineation. The work that's being proposed is to demolish an existing deck outside the 100-foot riparian, rebuild that deck, construct a 4-season room, a sauna, a walkway, and then to remove 3 trees, again, all outside the 100-foot riparian. I did walk the site. I had a number of questions and additional information. And I can go over that, but it might be a good idea for the representative to pull up the site plan so he can go over the proposal.
Sure, why don't we do that?
Lori, can you bring that up by chance?
Actually, I was going to ask if one of my commissioners would not mind doing that. Amy or Anna, would you mind bringing up the plan for One Bridle Path that was emailed? I'm sorry to hit you with that, but
Do you know when it was emailed?
it was emailed Monday to everyone.
Okay, is that something you're working on, Amy?
I think I've got it if unless Amy,
Okay.
you
Thank you
very
very
much like
much.
to. Oh, sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Anna, you may type faster. I'm not sure. But it would be neck and neck.
Okay. You should have my Chrome
Oh,
window,
there we go.
which is teeny
Yep.
tiny for me, so I assume it's teeny tiny for everyone else.
Yeah, but
Yep.
I think you have the ability to
There
zoom
we
in
go. Yep,
a little bit more. Okay.
perfect. Thank you.
Now, if you can just anticipate what Dave wants you to point at, and we'll be great.
That works actually right there is perfect. So
Okay.
the bridle path is to our left on the left of the screen. We have a driveway that goes kind of northwesterly from bridle path up to the right front corner of the house.
Mhm.
The wetland is, thank you. The wetland is on the top of the screen, bank location. You can see as you work from the bank location towards the house, we have those little symbols for the tree line. Most of the property has been disturbed. The lot was created back in 1968. So we have our septic system on the left side of the house on the south side. North is straight up the page. So on the bottom of the house, off the house is our cesspools. We have 4 large pieces of ledge on the right side, on the north side of the existing dwelling. And we have an existing deck behind the house. So as stated, we're going to take out the deck. The deck is 10 feet wide. We're proposing a deck 9.5. And it's only going to be built for about 3/4 of the length of the existing deck. On the northern edge or the right rear corner of the house, yep, exactly. We have our 4-seasoned room that's going to be on the deck level height. Beneath the deck, we have some stepping stones that leads from the bottom outside door. We're going to come out of the door, turn right. We have a series of wash stone and some stepping stones going to a concrete pad. On the concrete pad we're going to put a sauna. With regard to the trees, Rama, the owner, we came today to ask permission to cut 3 trees. We have 1 tree that's a 30-inch dead tree over by the kind of the north on westerly corner of the property. There's 1 there, and then there's 1 slightly down. Here we go, and then there's the dead one. We're going to remove those for consideration, so we're going to leave those, and we're going to deal with the dead one when it falls. So that's going to be, we're going to revise the plan to indicate that we're not going to be cutting any trees. The limit of our work is about 115 feet off the riverfront area. The existing deck has 2 staircases, one that comes down between the big piece of ledge and the top of the driveway. And that one's going to not be rebuilt. And the one on the south side, on the left-hand edge, is going to be built in its exact same location. I know one of the comments was a stockpile area. Future stockpile area is right where that staircase on the right-hand side by the driveway is going to be. It's going to be very, very small. We have very limited access to the property because of the septic system and the 4 pieces of ledge. So all the materials, wooden materials and materials are going to be piled on the pavement in the existing driveway. And then
by what are the front steps? Is that what the steps coming up out of the driveway? Right.
actually, it's even a little bit more towards that one of the pieces of ledge. It's going to be right in that area.
Right
there is going to be where all the lumber is going to be piled there. When the deck is removed, we're going to come out. All that lumber is going to come out through that little skinny space where that existing staircase is between the chimney and the ledge. And then when the wood comes back in, it's all going to be done by hand, no machinery. So we're going to, that little stockpile area needs to be very, very small and very temporary because that's our only access point in for removing the lumber and then bringing the lumber in. So with the existing deck, we have maybe 6 or 8 very small sonotubes. We're going to bring a very small 6-foot wide mini excavator, and they're going to access the back of the home right off the end of the driveway. you can kind of see a big red dashed line. If you went right there, yep. That's our
Yep.
path of our machinery.
Mhm.
So we're not cutting any trees, even though it shows a tree line there, we're not cutting any trees. We're gonna ride on top of the ground, and and we're gonna circle back down and around to the back of the house. The only reason we need the machinery is to dig up the sonotubes and then just level out the area, and then a very slight fill where the concrete pad is gonna go.
Mhm.
That's the limit of our excavation. So a lot of it is all the wood is by hand, and we just need this little track machine to get to the sonotubes and to grade the washed stone underneath the concrete pad.
Mhm.
We have no other area to put it or to access the site. So I know that the agent had mentioned that they were looking for some additional hay bales. We're very accommodating, not hay bales, erosion control measures from the corner of the driveway up and around that access point and sort of connect it to, we have some existing erosion control already behind the house, right there, yep. So we'll connect from the top of the driveway up and around and connect it to our erosion control that we show now.
Mhm.
Very minimal. We're working within the confines of what's there now. We're not expanding. We're doing a small little reduction in staircases and activity. So
Mhm.
we feel it's very
And-
amenable to.
Anna, do you know where, can you show us where the 100-foot riparian is? I see the 200.
Yeah, it's right about 10 feet off the house. Goes right
Okay.
through the
Oh, I
boulders.
see. There we go. Right, going through the stairs.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yep, there we
Yeah.
go. Yep,
Uh-huh.
yep.
Mhm. Okay. Janet, anything to add?
Yeah, let me just go through the rest of my comments. The first was, and this was also a comment from DEP in their technical comments on this website. We really need a more detailed narrative, even though this is a small project, but we do like to see some kind of a narrative. And then they also wanted to see how the project demonstrates compliance with the riverfront performance standards. So again, you're in the outer riparian, so that's not a lot of analysis, but we do want to see that outlined in a narrative.
So
We-
DEP spelled that out in their response to this filing?
Yes.
That's, yeah, that's, given the small scale of this, surprising. But you was gonna say something, Dave?
No, we'll provide that. Yep,
Okay.
we're happy
Well,
to
you-
provide that.
Came very close to that just now. If you can just, you can condense even that and
Yep.
and put it into writing.
Yep.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, Janet?
And then, so you'll expand the erosion control. You will revise the plan so no trees are coming out. And then will you also identify in the plan where you will be stockpiling?
Yep,
As you
yep,
just,
exactly, right, what we discussed, right against the corner of the driveway, garage. Yes, we will. Yep.
Great.
Mhm.
And the only other comment we did, DLCT is in a butter. And their comment from Stephen Bates that went out to all the commissioners, they just wanted to confirm no trees on their property were coming down. And also wanted to confirm that we would require permanent bounds, and that is in my special conditions.
Okay. And
Where-
permanent bounds along the property line, or where were they asking for those?
Well, again, usually the condition is that once the project's completed, then I meet with the applicant out on the site and we determine. They wanted to make sure there were at least bounds to show limit of work that would be not on their property. So we can,
But that's not that's a request from them, but that's not necessarily our requirement. It would seem to me if we wanted to show something, we may want to put something along the 100-foot riparian or something of that nature? I'm curious as to where is DLCT? Are they towards the top left?
They're across the railroad tracks from this.
Which I don't know where the railroad tracks are in this.
To the left. Yep, it's the MBTA property there. The tracks are up there. Yep, running parallel to our lot line.
Yeah, so my question on that is that puts them, the work there is much closer to the 200-foot riparian.
It's so they're they're notified because they're close enough, but they're not a direct abutter.
And I'm just thinking
I
in
don't
terms
think
of,
Stephen looked at the
yeah,
map where it
I'm
was.
thinking of this. Yeah, my feeling is if they were concerned about property lines and things of that nature, they could put the bounds in. But for this project here, I'm not clear where bounds would actually be called for. Jan, do you want to give me, help me out there?
Yeah, so what I would envision is that they would be on the river side of the driveway. So
in
there's
the rivers where?
at the top right.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. And so, and then where would you think so that's exactly, my thought is if we were to bound it at all, that it would be at the 100-foot riparian would be, or what other location would you be thinking of outside
Well,
of?
almost the entire 100-foot riparian is already completely disturbed, so
Yeah.
it would be at the closest point where there is no disturbance, which is to the riverfront side of the driveway.
So basically along the drain easement by the access road for the, or by just on the edge of the driveway.
Yep.
And is there some landscaping there? Is there a grass border to the tree line on that side of the driveway?
There's minimal grass there. Yep.
Yeah. So part of me just, I'm not
I would
clear.
just put a little sign that says everything to that it's wetlands beyond this.
Well, but it's not. It's where
But
is
we're
the
within the 100 foot of
riparian?
the riparian, but we're probably at the top of the drive, we're probably 50 feet from the
Yeah.
wetlands. So you could put a no dumping.
Yeah, that's I think
blah,
those
blah
signs. Yeah.
sign. Our
Yeah.
usual,
So
our
that's-
usual
so
sign right at the top of the driveway there.
yeah. So I think I don't. I'm a little
That would
concerned
just
about.
alert the next owner to the fact that there are wetlands and they have to think about it, and also, any lawn service, et cetera, that they shouldn't be dumping
Mhm.
clippings, et cetera,
Yep.
anywhere.
So yeah, the main issue I want to get across is I chafe at unnecessary expenses for a homeowner, and
I think he
but-
meant if they actually had a bound with GLCT, they try and get some bounds in because they've had a lot of encroachment and they.
Yeah, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. And
No, it's not the case here,
yeah.
but like I said, I don't think he looked at I'm
Mhm.
not sure he looked at the map. He just got they just got notified, and so.
Okay, so I personally don't
made
see
his
any.
standard request.
Yeah, I agree with the signs. I think they'd be helpful. I see no reason for bounds on either side of this project. Janet, other things?
That was it. So we would need a revised site plan, the narrative and the performance standard compliance
Yep.
by May 15th to be heard at the next meeting.
Sounds great.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well,
Thank you very much.
You just email Lori just to confirm that you're looking for continuance to that meeting, please.
Will do. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Let's see. Now, Dedham Street. I don't know if Kevin McCabe is on here yet. Oh, he is. Good. Okay. So we're moving a little quicker. let's see. Janet, have you had a chance to, have you met with Kevin out there, or, fill us in on where we're at from your perspective?
Yes, so I did inspect the site. I reviewed all the documents in some detail. And I've had some correspondence back and forth with the Weston Sampson engineers. And they prepared to go over, I had 7 specific questions or concerns, and they said they would be prepared to go over those this evening.
Okey-doke. And then is that gonna be Tyler who's gonna fill us in, or who's gonna lead on that?
Yeah, so good evening to the Conservation Commission. I have with me Rihanna and Tyler from Weston and Sampson, who will be leading the presentation. So we will share a screen here and go through that.
Yep, I can share my screen, yes, right now.
Oh, and congratulations on getting money for this.
Thank you, and to the
That's
residents
always-
of Dover.
Yeah, that's always helpful.
Okay,
There we go.
sharing the wrong screen. Is it up? Or can
Yep,
you see-
no, it's up. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, nice to meet everyone. As Kevin mentioned, my name is Tyler Coffalici. I'm a project manager for Weston and Sampson, and we have Rihanna Sumner who will be helping me with the presentation today. And again, this is for the Town Garage Site Improvement Project. I wanted to just do a quick aerial overview to get everyone orientated to the site. For reference, down at the bottom here in green is the town hall. Orange is the town garage. This red box represents the location of the existing chamber system that we are proposing to replace. And then the blue is the existing salt shed that we're planning to replace as well. And then the following slides and the orientation of our plans we submitted are as shown by this blue arrow here.
Mhm.
So jumping into the existing conditions, we just wanted to highlight first the existing salt shed in blue. This is a wood frame structure that's sustained some damage over the years and is in need of replacement. We have some photos on subsequent slides that help illustrate some of the damage that it's received. I would like to highlight that the salt shed is straddling 2 parcels, as you can see here, but both those parcels are town owned. It is adjacent to isolated wetlands shown in pink, and these wetlands are jurisdictional only under the local wetland bylaws. And that there is some work within the 70-foot structure setback and the 50-foot disturbance setback, which we are asking waivers on. I would like to note that, and notice all the disturbance proposed is already within disturbed areas. The red box is the location of the existing infiltration chamber system. This was installed roughly 20 to 30 years ago, and it accepts stormwater from the majority of the site. Back when it was installed, it wasn't installed within a pre-treatment or a mechanism for maintaining of the chambers. So over the years, it's collected a significant amount of sediment that's, eliminated its ability to store and infiltrate water. Just another quick highlight, we did get planning board approval for this project on April 30th. And the town engineer has reviewed the stormwater design as well. As mentioned previously, here are some photos highlighting some of the damage sustained by the shed. You can see, some of the wall panels are kind of falling out. Everything's bowing, and it's not structurally in good shape anymore. So I'll move on to kind of overview some of the proposed improvements for the site. We're going to be zooming into the rear portion of the site where all the work is being proposed. So there's a lot going on this, a lot going on this side. So I'll just walk us through step by step to help shed some light on it. First of all, in blue is the location of the proposed salt shed. This is going to be a proposed fabric style salt shed as shown in the rendering right up here. It's going to be located in the exact same footprint as the existing salt shed. It'll be have precast concrete block foundation walls and a fabric membrane structure on top. I want to highlight one of the important design features of the proposed salt shed is that it's going to be included a 20-foot tall entranceway. And this is important as it will allow salt deliveries to be dumped directly in the shed. Currently, the existing salt shed's too short to do that. So you have to dump the salt shed out in front, and then you have to use a loader to then move it back into the shed. And like inherently in that process, there's going to be some residual salt left over that is susceptible to being collected by rain and entering into the stormwater system. So by allowing that taller entranceway will help improve water quality on the site. The next major improvement on the site is replacing the existing stormwater chambers. And two of the overarching goals for this project are to improve water quality, to reduce peak flows towards the wetland, and also to reduce flooding concerns that have happened recently. So the ways that we're going to address and meet those goals are by adding pretreatment to the system that the existing system currently doesn't have. Pretreatment takes the form in two different ways. One is as the stormwater is collected from the front of the site, it's routed through pipes along the sides of the garage. And right before it enters our infiltration chamber system, it'll be routed through hydrodynamic separators. These systems will help remove suspended solids and any hydrocarbons that are picked up in the stormwater. Flowing through the hydrodynamic separators, the stormwater will be introduced into isolator rows. These isolator rows are lined with 2 layers of filter fabric, and it helps filter out additional sediment picked up in the stormwater before it is allowed to infiltrate. These isolator rows will be equipped with inspection ports to allow the DPW to manage and maintain and clean out buildup of sediment over the years to help sustain the function of this system moving into the future. So those features will greatly improve water quality on the site. And we're also increasing the size of the chamber system horizontally and vertically. This will help increase the amount of storage available in the system to help mitigate peak flows and to help promote infiltration on the site. And then in addition to increasing the volume, we're also adding a overflow control structure at the outlet. This will help meter flows from the chamber system and slowly discharge it to the wetlands over time. I also wanted to quickly highlight that we are replacing a holding tank at the side of the shed. This is a tank that accepts water from the floor drains. It'll be a double wall fiberglass tank that will be electronically monitored as well. And highlighted in yellow is an existing stockade fence that was being proposed to be replaced as part of this project as well. I just wanted to note real quick that the images you're seeing on the plan do reflect some changes that we've made in response to some of the conservation agent's comments, and we'll dive into those changes in a bit more detail shortly.
All right, so hi everyone, Rihanna Summers, wetland scientist from Weston and Sampson. I just wanted to briefly touch on some of the mitigation measures and BMPs that the contractor will follow during construction. So we are proposing to install sediment controls, both compost tubes and silt fence along the outer limits of work to protect that adjacent isolated wetland. They'll also install silt sacks in the catch basins within the parking lot areas just to protect those from sedimentation, and all staging will be outside of the jurisdictional areas and buffer zones. There will also be a temporary stabilized construction entrance that all vehicles will have to pass through when they're entering and leaving the site. That's shown on the plans. Contractor will maintain your basic spill response materials. Contractor will also sweep the parking area as necessary if there's any accumulated sediment that they're noticing. And dewatering is not anticipated as part of construction just because of the depth to groundwater at the site. But if it is necessary, there will be no direct untreated discharges of groundwater. If they do have to discharge groundwater, they'll filter it appropriately, likely through a filter bag or and then discharge it to one of the catch basins.
Yep.
So this slide, this just touches a little bit on the work that's proposed in the buffer zone. This photo here on the right shows the isolated wetland, and then there's the existing fence that separates it from the salt shed. So as you can see, it is pretty close. So we are inherently working within the 50-foot, the local 50-foot and 70-foot local setbacks. But as Tyler mentioned, we're going to be working completely within previously disturbed areas. We won't be expanding the limits of the existing pavement or putting the new replacement salt shed any closer to the wetland than under existing conditions. And as he mentioned too, we'll actually be pulling the pipe back from further away from the wetland, which we'll discuss more, but that was an edit that we made this week based on the comments that we received from the conservation agent.
Yep. Which I think
oh.
is a good segue to our the following slide. So before we ended the presentation, we did want to touch base and kind of respond to all the questions. So I haven't listed all here. We'll just walk through them one by one, and if folks want to weigh in, you know, as we're responding through these questions, feel free. So the first question that was submitted to us had asked us to evaluate some alternatives for relocating the discharge pipe away from the wetland. And so we looked at two potential options. The first option included cutting the drainage pipe back and then installing a yard drain at the end of it. Essentially, this would allow water from the chambers to, you know, rise up out of the yard drain and then sheet flow to the wetlands. However, upon further evaluation, this would effectively increase the invert elevation of the system, and then it would you know, potentially cause flooding upstream of the system, which is one of the things we're trying to prevent. So the second alternative, which is the one we're proposing and currently showing on the plans and on your screen, involves installing a concrete head wall with a riprap lined channel. This will locate the outlet pipe 23 feet away from the wetland. And then, so water discharged from the pipe will flow into the riprap lined channel directed to the wetland. The riprap will help diffuse the energy in the discharge water, helping to reduce potential for scouring and depositing sediment in the wetland. We've also performed channel sizing calculations that we'll submit in our supplemental package, formally addressing these comments. So any questions on this first response?
So this is basically an overflow pipe? You know, so, you know, under normal circumstances, the water should be held within the containment area?
Yep, water will only flow. Water will flow through this, as there is, if I go back to
yeah, the double catch basin will have some catchment of basically the impervious area now as it's currently serving.
Okay.
The majority of the site would be, you know, contained, and water would overflow from the chambers through that and high storm events.
Got it.
Tyler,
yep.
this is Janet. Just a quick question. Could you briefly go over again the first option that you considered, but then you had to rule that out, I think, based on the site conditions? Is that right?
Yeah, I can. So instead of there being a head wall at the end, you can imagine a vertical yard drain or like a plastic nyloplast structure where the discharge pipe would hit the base of the system, and then water would have to rise vertically up through the yard drain and then overfill the rim, and then it would sheet flow to the wetland. Because the main driver of the system is gravity driven, so we have to somehow daylight the pipe, and the existing pipe is very shallow. It's at, I believe it's at 129, a little bit shallower than what we're showing here, which daylights right in the wetland edge. So essentially, we're just bringing the daylight portion back away from the wetland.
Mhm.
Does that?
And you're only, so that's only 1/10 of an inch drop from your invert out from a little for beyond there.
Yeah, the channel is essentially flat.
Yeah,
Once.
so you don't have much room for manipulation there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
The level channel will also help reduce flows as well.
Mhm.
Okay, we can move on to the next questions if we're good with those ones.
Yep.
Um,
Janet, anything to any other questions, Janet?
Nope, not on that one.
okay.
Okay.
The second
And-
one was just asking us to submit a construction period pollution prevention, erosion and sediment control plan, which we have compiled for you guys and will be included in the supplemental package.
Mhm.
The third question was asking us to install an orange construction fence and to modify our details accordingly. So we did modify one of our details showing the silt fence. So we'll have the silt fence with the compost filter tube, and then we're now showing the orange construction fence in front of it.
Mhm.
The fourth one was to help ask us to elaborate on how the stormwater from the roof will be managed. So we are proposing to add a stone trench / level spreader along the edge of the shed. So the idea here is that water hitting the roof will shed down off the roof and then we'll hit this stone trench and it'll either like for low flows, it would just infiltrate right there. Or if it has high enough flows, it would then overtop and act essentially as a level spreader to help sheet flow towards the wetland.
Mhm. And on the other side, where does it go?
So on the other side, where I believe it's paved on that side, and the grades are actually sloped towards the shed. So we're only proposing it on the shed on the side that is adjacent to the
And
wetland.
then they'll be collected by the catch basin that was referred to earlier.
It's actually sandy gravel in between, on the other side, in between our park and recreation, the grounds division where they keep maintenance equipment. There's no asphalt there.
Oh, okay.
I was mistaken.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. And do we have okay, there we go.
Yep. The last remaining three questions are on this slide. The fifth one was to help elaborate on how the new fabric shed will contain and prevent runoff into the wetlands. So the proposed shed is proposed to have a asphalt slab, which is impervious liner, and then the walls / foundation are made of precast concrete blocks. The interface between these two will be sealed to make a watertight seal, essentially making a sealed shell. However, it's in our experience that even though there is a large front entryway, the volume of water that enters through the salt is that enters into the shed is very minimal compared to the volume of salt being stored in there. And what would likely happen is that the salt would just be absorbed the water would be absorbed by the salt for it to be, evaporated on a drier day. So we do have the seals as a best management practice, but don't anticipate there being much of a volume of water to create a discharge. Does that make sense to everybody? And then number 6 was asking where the salt and how the salt will be moved prior to construction, and we'll let Kevin elaborate on that.
Yeah, so I'm talking to counterparts now in surrounding communities who do have access capacity in their salt sheds currently. So within the next few weeks, my staff will be hauling our salt to other communities for storage during the construction process.
Also, so then the last one was just to elaborate on the construction materials for the shed. And as previously mentioned, there'll be precast concrete block walls with a impervious paved surface, and those will be sealed together at the joints. So it's a very similar response to number 5.
And Kevin, what's the size of this?
Capacity wise or dimensions? Dimensions, it's 72 feet long, 48 feet wide, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And that's well, I imagine that, what was it, $400,000+. That also includes the construction costs for the all the drainage that we've been talking about.
No, the drainage is additional on top of that.
Really?
Just for, I
So
guess, the
ju-
public's benefit and yours, that's going to be funded through ARPA funding.
So
So
just this, a tent basically is almost $500,000.
correct.
Mhm. And what's the expected lifespan?
So basically for duration of life, the overall unit itself would be essentially lifeless. The only further expenditure would be in 20 to 25 years to just put a new fabric coating over the roof when it deteriorates. My last community was well over 20 years and was still in immaculate condition. So Weston and Sampson can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the given lifespan is typically 20 years. My last facility and community was white. We're actually going to be going with a forest green, so it would be a little bit more subtle to the neighbors, a little bit better blend into the tree canopy because it's kind of in the woods essentially. So I don't know if that would speed up that duration, but I think 20 years, I'd be back at town meeting to request to redo the fabric roof.
Yep. Yeah, and the fabric does come with a 15-year warranty from the manufacturer, and provided that we're given a pretty high vertical clearance, it helps prevent any damage from loaders. But short salt sheds are not advantageous.
Janet, any other concerns to be addressed?
No, I think they've covered all of the concerns that I indicated. And you'll be showing, so you'll respond in writing to these issues. And then also you'll have details on the storm, the stone trench, and also the new outfall design. Those will be on your site plans.
Yeah, they're on the site. They're being shown on the site plans now, and we have that package ready to be submitted.
Okay, great. The other question I had for Kevin, since we're talking about salt and wetlands, I'm wondering if you can tell us just briefly what the salt composition is. We have so many wetlands in town. I get questions from people about, well, what's the sand to salt mix and what kind of salt? What's the chemical composition? I don't know if you're using calcium chloride or what's the most, what is the safest product that's being used now for salting?
Yeah, so due to our limited constraints, we only use sodium chloride. So regular rock salt, what you would have at your dinner table. If we had a bigger salt shed, we would probably have magnesium chloride treated salt in there, which is typically green coated salt, which is used in basically colder temperatures, 15 degrees and colder. We don't have the luxury of having space, as you can see from the site constraints that we currently are dealing with here. So we only do sodium chloride. And we do keep sand on hand, so kind of depending on the conditions, if it's icier, but to the public's benefit, sand doesn't melt ice, and then obviously creates a bigger pollutant discharging into the wetlands, right? You get and filling up our catch basins, as that's a hazardous waste and regulated waste that has to get removed annually through the MS4 permit, our catch basin cleaning, and you would end up subsequently using more material when you use sand, as that's an insulator to ice, and it doesn't provide any public safety benefit other than traction.
Does Dover use any pre-treatment? Spray?
No, unfortunately, no. We don't have any brine apparatus. My understanding is it's something the town looked at, I think maybe 10 or 15 years ago. In my last community, we did put brine out. The results aren't public perceived, I think, as they kind of understand, right? Brine, I mean, obviously this is about the salt shed, but I'll give you a little bit of education here, I guess. Liquid brine, right, using basically 76% of his water, and the remaining is sodium chloride diluted down into the solution. Unfortunately, it's not the be all end all for storms. There's Maine DOT has a very good flow chart of when that application can be used on roadways. And specifically the last couple of winters we've seen with a lot of moisture switching to snow, any sort of precipitation or rain prior to an actual snowfall, it wouldn't be an acceptable treatment. And then the other thing is that Dover residents are not used to, right, is you wouldn't have bare pavement. When you put granular salt down, that dilutes, that melts, and that, subsequently you see that result is black pavement. You don't see that with brine. Underneath it, it creates that buffer and layer. But obviously you want to let the road build up. So it's 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, 1 inch, by the time apparatus goes out and actually mechanically removes the snowfall from the roadway. And that's the advantage to brine, is that you don't have any icing or hard pack underneath the roadway. But again, there is that period, because it's creating a layer, a buffer layer, but it's not actually melting the snow away off the road.
Yeah. And yeah, it seems the plows are out there pretty much immediately regardless. So then Janet, are you looking, we just need these amendments to things for the next meeting?
That's right.
Okay. So is that clear for everyone in terms of what's necessary?
So we've already made those amendments. So I guess we are looking for the board for a pending contingency that we submit those to Janet, because we've already depicted those changes through that past slide reel. So we are looking for the board's direction to approve those, and then we would formally, submit a paper copy again with the changes that we reviewed this evening.
So you're looking for a vote tonight? Is your preference?
Yeah, I don't, we've already covered all of those changes. So obviously they'll be final pending your approval tonight. So then we could just resubmit that package. I don't, Weston, I don't feel that there's anything that Weston Sampson would have to change at this point.
So
based on the feedback from the board.
Any questions from commissioners concerning this?
No.
And Jen, you have, I'm sorry, and Sarah?
No, I said no. I said
Oh,
no.
okay. Jen, you had your hand up?
So we have, there is a document required under the stormwater management standards that I'd like to have a chance to review. It's possible I could come back with questions or concerns. So I think we do meet in just 2 weeks. I'd prefer I have not seen a revised site plan. So our normal process is that if revisions are needed, we get that document in, it's reviewed, and then we could close an issue at the next meeting. That's our usual procedure.
And would this be holding you up at all, Kevin, or are you're looking to start this farther out from then?
I would defer to Weston and Sampson. Obviously, pending the approval and the changes, I would like to get this out immediately so that there's no loss of service come winter season, because we will be racing to get this constructed before the winter months.
So I mean, 2 weeks is not going to make a difference. And, I imagine the vote will be pretty easy. We just don't have the actual paperwork submitted. Or were you hoping to have something started, within the next 2 weeks?
I don't think we'll be out to bid in the next 2 weeks, but it would, it'll accelerate the process.
So I mean, we've discussed everything. Janet, when did you get the stormwater report?
Well, I got that with the original filing, but all these revisions, which I would say substantial, I have not seen we have not gotten any of these in writing.
So what I'm interested, I'm not clear on what is a substantial revision here. I see the outfall, and I see, construction fencing and so forth. What, was there something else that you would view as substantial?
Well, I would like to see the specific design detail on the outfall and the stone infiltration trench, and then a chance to review this new document, the construction period pollution prevention plan. I have not.
Where's,
I'm all
where's
for
that?
reading. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead, Anna. What's that?
Given this is the stormwater bylaws new to us, I'm all for reading it first. I doubt we will have, you know, we multiple meetings of conversation, but I would like to see it before we vote.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about a detailed, Janet, are you looking for a cross section of this outfall as
Yes,
opposed to a plan view?
yeah.
Um,
I assumed that was the detail that was going to be added to the site plan.
okay, with some dimensions and so forth. I guess yeah, I understand where both sides are coming from. Why don't we move this to the next meeting? Just get everything back to us within the next week, and Janet will make sure that she has it completely reviewed prior to that.
Okay.
And I think that's the correct way to do it. But obviously, I don't expect any holdups with this. So given that the folks who have written the stormwater regulations are the people who were writing the stormwater report for this. Let's play it by the book there and just get everything wrapped up for the next meeting.
And
Yeah,
then-
and just to make a comment, those stormwater bylaws will not be in effect, even though the
I was
community
gonna
voted
make that.
voted them Monday night. There's
Yeah,
still
this is-
probably about a 4 to 6 month period until the Attorney General approves that bylaw and it becomes in effect. And then the town, we still have subsequent work, significant work we have to do to have a public forum and to vote on regulations portion of that. So
And this
that
was
will not
submitted-
be applicable for this project.
Right. And this was submitted prior to that vote regardless. And on top of that, I would not imagine there'd be much different in this relative to the new regulations. Is that an appropriate assumption or?
Yeah, so I don't really, we're not altering an existing town, and we're not disturbing over 1,500 square feet, because this is already pre-existing impervious, so I wouldn't see that
You're not
applicable to
cutting
this
trees
project.
no, and I just wanted to let the other commission members know that, the outfall here done every day, minimal. So I'll be curious to see the report, but this is pretty much submitted as is. But why don't we just for any potential unknown because we are looking for a stormwater report, let's continue this to the next meeting and be prepared to vote on it at that point.
Okay.
And then John, just one other request. I did not see the stormwater report or the site plans as an electronic submittal. And I think it might be good for the commissioners. I think in terms of the application, you could leave out the stormwater calcs, but the other components of the NOI, including the other portions of the stormwater management standard compliance.
So I'm just curious, Janet, because this is a pretty relative to what we're dealing with an ILSF and so forth. What would you expect to be covered in that report that that may change our mind?
Oh, no, nothing. I think it's just educational and usually the NOI application does go out to all the commissioners electronically.
No, that I agree with. I have no problem with that. I was just curious because and we'll find out. But I do want to have folks have fun reading this, and then and let's just be curious to see if it brings us any new information. But I think it is appropriate to have all the documentation in place before we vote. So why don't we go ahead and do that, and we'll have that on our next agenda.
One
Go ahead.
clarifying question do you want us to resubmit all of the site plans, Janet, including the ones that are unchanged, or just resubmit the ones with changes on them?
I think it might be, I hate to kill more trees, but I think it would be confusing to just submit. Well, I don't know. It's up to you.
Were these submitted electronically first? Or as well?
We submitted both a full compiled like PDF of the full submittal with the plans
Mhm.
and stormwater report, and then we submitted separate hard copies of both.
Okay, so I would think for PDFs, I actually for both, I think just submit them as a I'm trying to think, amendment's not really the correct word, but
Addendum.
an addendum, thank you. Let's submit them all under an addendum electronically as well as on paper, and that will and that way we don't have a full, we don't waste as much paper, and we have a tidy little thing that we can look at called an addendum as opposed to trying to suss it out from something else. Okay.
Perfect. And is it 2 hard copies that you prefer for the plans?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. And then is the date of the next hearing, you said 2 weeks, right? So is that the 22nd of May?
I believe so. Is that, Lori, is that correct? I
Yes.
don't.
Yes.
I don't want to interrupt.
The
her, but yeah,
22nd.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Great. Then great. Then we should be we'll see you then and move on. Great.
All right.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a good evening.
You too.
Thanks. Good
Bye.
night.
Okay, so next up is 62 Claybrook Road. Actually, is that up or did that get continued?
No, I believe that's coming. Yep, that's still
Oh,
on.
okay, yeah, I see Glasser Engineering. Yep. So, Janet, why don't you fill us in on this?
Sure. So this is an interesting lot. There is a small cottage on it, but it really isn't a real dwelling. But the small cottage is being removed. A new house is going in. This is actually next to 60 Claybrook, which was before us last year, for an expansion of an existing home. There's an intermittent stream towards the back of the site. So they're proposing to demolish the existing structure, which is outside the 100-foot buffer. Construction of a new single-family home, a small portion of the deck, and then the drinking water well is located in the back of the property. And I think Lori was going to share the screen, or I don't know, John Glossa, are you able to share your?
I'm not right now, so if somebody could help me out with that,
Mhm.
that would be,
I was going to
Helpful.
request Anna's help again.
I bet Anna will
Okay.
be able to do it.
This went out Monday also, Anna.
She'll find it.
That's good. I think I got it.
Thank you.
Plan. Let's see. And that's the letter.
I
There's
think the
our-
plans, it says like 62 CLY NOI, something like that.
Yeah, I think I got it.
There you go. You got it.
Looks like we're over here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's hard to see, Mr. Chairman, but sort of right where it says proposed 2-car garage, there's a dashed line in there, and that's the existing building. There is a
Oh, I
well.
see it. Yeah. Mhm.
There is a well on this site, which is to the left of the building. I think somewhere it says well to be
Okay.
abandoned.
And what's the lot size?
It's 1.5 acres, so it's a
Okay.
fairly large lot, but most of it is to the rear. It's a
Mhm.
fairly narrow lot. It's only 77 feet wide.
I see. So
But
Anna's
it
showing
has a
the
building, Mr. Stallings, who, as Janet said, rehabbed the house next door and actually lives there to the house at 60 Claybrook. I don't know what the board thinks. I thought he did a very good job. He's very
Mhm.
responsible. He's one of the few builders that actually listens to me and does what I ask him to do.
Mhm. And so was this land originally owned by Fish? Or was
Uh,
it owned by the neighbor there?
No, I think it was owned by Fish. I think you're
across the
right.
street there? Okay.
And it's been sort of bought and sold a few times, but it came up for sale. He put I don't know if it was through a bank or something. He put a bid on it and, you know, he was successful in buying this piece of property.
And then
We
we're able to
did,
grandfather the existing house so that you can get a septic system in there?
right.
Mhm.
Right, so we have the septic in the front. It's conforming in all respects to Title V and to Dover's regulations.
It's a
But
raised system, right?
a raised system.
Okay.
But the water table was deep enough that it meets the local requirement. I think it's 36 inches, but we actually have water table. Down at 40 inches, 46 inches, 40 inches, 42 inches. So we met that, and we were pretty conservative. I went with Jason. Well, he didn't, but I went right in the hole and to search for, you know, the models and whatever. So we dug a hole down 5 feet, 5.5 feet, and I went right in there and found them wherever we could.
Okay.
I think the only unfortunate thing is that because of the sort of hopscotching or whatever you want to call it of the wells and the septic systems, the well for this property has to be at the very rear.
Okay.
And that is because the septic system for 64 Claybrook Road, as you can see, is behind the house there and ends, there's a vent and it ends right where that vent is. So 100 feet from that location puts us back in right there. We're 26.1 feet from the nearest edge of wetlands.
And the
But
existing well, is that not functioning or was that shallow?
so the existing well now is too close to the septic system at 64
Got it.
Claybrook.
Okay.
So that's the only place to put the replacement well for this
And
house.
the construction path that you're showing there, you anticipating leaving that there for well access in the future, or what's?
We didn't, so in my experience, Mr. Chairman, and maybe you have more experience with it, the well digger truck, let's call it, isn't, even though it's a big, heavy truck, it has huge tires. And so it doesn't really press down on the ground any more than a car. But we just thought that somebody on the board or Janet, maybe we misthought this, would want to, you know, one question would be, well, how are you going to get that truck back there? So we're just showing how it's going to get back there. This location has been, you know, wouldn't call it heavily altered, but it's been altered over the years. It's grass all the way back to where, within maybe about 10 feet of where we're showing that well. So, you know, other equipment has, you know, maybe landscaping type of stuff has trespassed or has been on this thing. So I don't really anticipate any requirement of any extra gravel or anything like that. We were just showing the location of how we think the well digger, the well driller will get to the location. And in the future, if there needed to be, for some reason, that truck to go back there again, that, you know, there's a path to get there. But we don't
Well,
see it anything other than grass.
yeah, no, historically it's been grass for most people in town. So is it currently grass up to the tree line that's shown there?
Yes.
Okay.
Not beautiful lawn like you'd see,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
grass. It's
Okay.
all the way grassed all the way back.
Okay. So, and the 100-foot line is for wetland is where?
It's the green line right there.
There we go.
So
Way to
we
go,
only
Anna.
have about 470 feet, including the deck, which is
Mhm.
within the 100 feet.
Okay. And it's
Oh.
outside it's outside 75 feet.
It's outside the 75 foot. That's the darker
Mhm.
black line you can
Yeah.
see there.
And our line is actually 70, just to let you know.
Oh, well, we messed
so-
that up.
So, well, you still, outside of it.
Yeah.
Janet, anything to add?
Yeah, so there were three additional information that was needed. The first is we do need a formal waiver request for
Mhm.
disturbance within the 50-foot and also the waiver fee. That's really a formality because under the setback rules for septic systems, there's really no other location for that well.
Mhm.
But it is within, it's a new structure, it's within 50 feet. So we do need a formal waiver request. The second is just a short narrative indicating that all roof runoff and stormwater drainage will be outside the 100-foot buffer. And then the third, just to remove, as we discussed, there's no reason for a formal construction access path. Creating a path like that would cause more disturbance than what's there. So I recommend removing that from the site plan. It's not
Mhm.
really required for the well. So those are my three comments.
Okay. Yeah, so basically, John, I'm viewing that as a courtesy. You showed us what you're going to have there, but typical use in Dover doesn't require an actual pathway. So we know we know that you're going to need to get there. We don't need to see it on a permanent site plan.
Okay, no, I understand.
And appreciate it.
Yeah, and I have no problems with the other
Okay.
comments from Janet.
Okay. And Janet, do you need all those before we vote, or that seems like, things that would, that if we were to vote in favor, we can just hold the OOC until they're delivered to the office?
Well, the regulatory waiver request, we really
Yeah.
need to have that in hand so you can vote on that. We don't have that.
I'm a little confused because you basically said that as a well, we need it, but then that's the only place they can put the well, so we don't need it. I'm not sure.
Well, so under the regs, the waiver, one of the requirements is that you have to assert or prove that there's
Mhm.
no alternative. So that
Right.
the burden's on the applicant
Mhm.
to make that case. But
Okay.
I did talk to the Board of Health director, and that is the case here, but they still have to meet the regulation requirements.
So the regulation requirement, do we have a form for a waiver per se, or they just have to have a narrative expressing the lack of alternatives
Yeah,
available?
they just have to outline how they comply with the performance standards for the waiver.
Okay. And roof runoff, are we showing roof runoff where that's going?
We are not, Mr. Chairman, so we'll take care of that.
Okay. And yes, that I think is actually an important change that we would want to see on the plan to be submitted. So why don't you incorporate those, send them over, and we'll put you onto the agenda for the following meeting.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable, Mr. Chairman. So we should have something back to the commission the very first of next week, if that's palatable to the.
And I don't know if the building inspector is requiring or the town engineer requiring Caltex or any of that form for that. I'm assuming you'll be taking the back portion of that roof and bringing it forward with downspouts so that you're outside the 100-foot.
Yes.
And then have you discussed whether you'd be putting that into Caltex or?
We have not discussed that, but I will make
Okay.
sure that that gets done.
Okay. Okay, then if you can send a formal letter off to Lori, just requesting that continuance, please. And I will see you next at our next meeting.
Okay, that sounds very
Okay.
good. Thank you, Mr.
Great.
Chairman and members
Thank-
of the
thank-
board. Thanks, Anna.
Yeah, exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you. Okay, 25 Wilsondale. They've tried and tried. So why don't actually Janet, why don't you just let us know what you've been communicating with Kay.
Sure, so this is an open order of conditions. It was a limited project for an ecological restoration to remove invasives. The original order of conditions required no use of herbicides, but that if manual mechanical methods were not effective, they could come back and request a waiver. Last year, they came and asked for a waiver to apply herbicides, just cut and dab manual, to privet and black swallowwort. Since then, they have been assessing their progress, and there's an outline of about 8 different additional invasives they would like permission to treat with limited use of herbicides manually.
Mm-hmm. And your take on that?
Yeah, I think they're doing this very responsibly. They have a really good ecological restoration team. And Kay herself the owner, Kay Peterson, has become a bit of an expert on invasives. So she doesn't want to have to use herbicides any more than is needed, but given the extent of the invasives, I think this is reasonable and I'd recommend approval.
Okie doke. And is this basically, is this an amendment, or how are we viewing this?
It's really, the order of conditions just required that they
Come back to us?
request a waiver to use herbicides.
Okay, so that we would be voting on granting the waiver
That's right.
request. Okay. Any commissioners or anyone else have any questions concerning this?
Seems good. I think there are a few things that aren't technically invasive, but I too would remove lily of the valley, so works for me.
Interesting. Are Norway maples, classically invasive?
Yes.
I know I have a bunch falling down around me, but I just didn't know if they were invasive. So, okay, then I will entertain a motion to grant this. Can someone come up with one?
Anna,
Motion to grant the waiver for application of herbicides to this list of invasive and problematic plants.
second.
Thank you. All in favor? Anna?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, so best of luck, Kay.
Thank you. I could use some
Okay.
luck.
Okay, have a good evening.
We
Bye-bye.
are making progress, and thank you very much for your support. It helps.
Yep,
Okay.
no, it's a two-way street. It's been and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, next I have so Janet, fill me in on this continued request for the RDA for 31 Springdale. We don't seem to have anybody here for that.
Oh, okay. So as you'll recall, we had received this RDA, work had started, we issued an enforcement order. The RDA came in for a driveway expansion and a circular drive. Jim and I did an inspection to review the RDA proposal. At that inspection, we observed extensive violations. And we issued a subsequent enforcement order. We discussed that at the last meeting.
Right.
Will requested permission to finish a stone wall along the foundation and in the front. We gave permission to do that because it was a mess out there. But we did request that he come back at this meeting so we can finish our discussion on the open RDA.
So there seemed to be a couple things on that. One was he was going to not go forward with the circular drive, but he wanted to put the posts in as if it were there. Is that, do you know if he went, and we gave him permission, I believe. Did he, has he done that?
So we did not give him permission to put in any posts. Those went in at least a month ago without our permission.
Oh, I see.
Um,
But
but he-
we have nothing in writing from him saying that he is not putting in that component of the driveway. I mean, he stated that verbally, but do we have anything in writing from him on that?
No, and so that we just, need to formally
Yeah.
discuss the RDA and then take a vote on that. I would recommend the proposed circular drive is within about 15 feet of
Mhm.
the vernal pool in BVW. I would not recommend that, but the other work I would recommend, which is, he's already completed most of the other work.
Okay.
But
So,
just-
and is this RDA also supposed to address the covered culvert that he installed in the back?
no, that is under an
An
enforcement.
order? Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we, seems appropriate to, I don't know what happened communication wise. Is he working with Goddard on this?
Not on the RDA, but on the restoration plan, which is due May 15th.
Okay, then why don't we, interesting. So why don't we get a reminder letter out to him, this week that, we had expected him here and that, and bring to his attention that, of the May 15th deadline, and let's schedule him for the next meeting. Does that seem appropriate?
And that should go out of the office from Lori?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
that seems appropriate.
Any questions on that, Lori?
No questions.
Okay, great, thank you. And let's see, 29 Saddle Ridge Road has continued. And 12 and 14 Miller Hill Road has continued. And then we have a discussion for 15 Grand Hill Drive for an enforcement order regarding tree removals and stockpiling. So Janet, why don't you bring us up to date on that?
So you'll recall at the last minute, you approved an enforcement order. Let's see.
At the
No.
last meeting.
I think, let's see, I'm just going to my notes. I observed some tree removal and stockpiling of trees and stumps in the back riverfront area. And we had sent a letter out to the owners to attend this meeting. So we did not issue an enforcement order, as is our usual process. We wanted to hear from the homeowners on this. Yeah.
Okay, and then Fen Borden is, are you the homeowner?
Yes, I'm a homeowner.
Okay.
Can
And
you hear me? Yeah.
you're faint. I don't know if there's anything you can do to increase the gain or to move a little closer.
Can,
Oh, that was better.
okay.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I didn't see the mic.
Yeah. So my name is Fen Boyden. I'm the owner of the 15 Grand Hills Dover. So I may have the language problem, but I try my best to explain for the issue. I'm very poor. Thank you for you guys to take care of the community and working hard for our neighbors. So I love the Dover very much. So I'm sorry. So with your time to do that, but I think the 2020, about the October, so we do the tooth inspection about the trees, moving. So I was told so I can move in the tree before my house, but I cannot move in the tree, in the backyard because the wetland. So and at that time we do the inspection. So there is two trees I can move in. So because the trees already tight, so very close my house. So, but I didn't. I finished the inspection, but I didn't. remove the tree because at that time, so I have not enough money to do that. So I just put, you know, the color taper, make the, you know, the market that. So last year after the big storm, there is 3 trees fall down. 2 is them in the, you know, the front. So I think the town clean that. One is very big tree, so they fall down in my backyard. So I call the, you know, the conservation and also communication with Lori in the email. He said she will send some people to go there to do the inspection. But you know, maybe I'm not home, somebody do that, but I didn't heard some the feedback. So I still wait. I didn't do nothing. So about the April, you know, my neighbor, they saw the tree fall. So the recommendation, 2 neighbor recommendations, they said that they cut the tree. They asked me the recommendation that to me to cut the tree because I didn't get feedback. So I didn't cut the tree. They think the company think it's very dangerous. They said they will fall soon, but I didn't cut that. I just cut the tree in front of my house, and also the 2 trees they already do inspection. So
So the trees so there was a picture that Janet sent to us. It looks like the backyard. Is that Janet? Is that?
yes,
And
yes.
those were cut in place. Were those trees that had come down on their own, or those trees that you had cut because parts of them had come down? I'm not clear.
There's a one very big tree. They already fall down, so we just cut that piece, and also some of the trees I cut in the front. So I don't know where can I put. So I saw the neighbor they put, and also I saw the older owner they put some firewood. So I put almost the same line with them, and not put very inside the wood, you know.
And what's the purpose of that? You know, is that accessible from the road that people might take them on their own, or I'm not clear on, or is this because these are like
No,
the
no, no, 那个what's your question? I'm sorry.
Well, I'm
Could you
trying to
please
actually, why don't I ask Janet's been out there. So Janet, the picture you have seems to show access that was created and a bunch of trees that were cut that are in the back. And I'm being led to understand that those trees may have come down on their own and then somebody helped and just cut them up for her. Does that seem to tie in with what you saw out there?
Not really.
Okay.
I didn't see actually any trunks back there.
Mhm.
And there was, you know, fairly recent tire tracks
Mm-hmm.
back into this area. So there definitely was some machinery back there.
Do you
And-
think there was a chance that these logs were brought there from out front, or?
That's what appeared to me, because usually if you have trees down in an area and you're just cutting them, you don't need machinery, you just need a good
Right.
chainsaw.
Mhm. Go ahead, Pam.
No, yeah. So the tree, the fall down, you know, my neighbor saw that. I also have the picture, the tree fall down. So the company, you know, because the company, they come here, they cut the tree, the truck, they cut that. So I don't know where can I put that, you know. So I put that, they use a machine, they put that inside the wood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I guess, and then the wetland on this, does this run along the right side of the house, Janet, or there's a stream there, or Where's the
Pretty
wetland
much
in this?
in the back, in the rear to the house.
Mm-hmm. And is this in the wetland, or do you have an idea of roughly how far it is from the wetland?
It was hard to say. I would not say it was in the wetland, but
Okay,
it's close, it's getting close to BVW. Yeah.
okay. So, yeah, I'm looking at Google Earth, some fall pictures where I could see some of the maples turning. So, let me just get a measurement here.
I have it up. I have it up on Mass Mapper. I can measure on that too.
Yeah, I'm showing around 100 feet from the back of the house, and then maybe to a larger wetland around 180 feet. Is that what you,
Yeah, it's about 120 feet to the Mass DEP. Well,
is that showing as an actual wetland, that then spreads out from there?
yeah, there's a Mass DEP
Okay.
wetland.
So,
back there.
so it sounds like it's certainly within the buffer. So Janet, what are you recommending here?
Well, usually when it's not exactly clear where the wetland is, the first step, I did propose a recommended enforcement order, which is our standard process where the owner has to hire a qualified professional wetland scientist to do a site evaluation, delineate the wetlands, and then come back to us with that information. And then, and they would do an analysis of, is there an impact? And then we would decide whether a full restoration plan is needed or some other type of mitigation.
So it seems it's a very treed area, so I'm just sort of jumping ahead a little bit. A restoration for what might be 3 or 4 trees in an area that's certainly well under a 50% threshold.
They
Where do you
didn't cut these trees though, they just put them there, right?
Well, that's what we're being
Right
told, but
now,
we'd have to find the stumps to prove that, I guess, it would seem. But I mean, right at the moment, what we have is debris, but it's kind of debris where if it fell on its own in that location, if somebody left it there, we'd be okay with that,
called
right?
habitat.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's why I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill here in terms of what the net effect would be on things. I'm probably more concerned of seeing the pathway that might have been, created by default by the machinery taking it back there, but I think that will survive as well. So I'm just trying to think. But my question, Dan, would be, if somebody had dropped those trees there, I mean, if we have 4 out of 100 and some odd trees, is that and they had asked for, to do that, would that have been allowed without any restoration?
That would be for the commission to decide, but in this case, this is a substantial amount of trees. It's not as if they just naturally fell in areas.
No, it sounds like they were moved from other areas and greater than what came down in that area. I don't disagree. I think the idea of requiring somebody, a wetland scientist, to come in, show where the wetlands is, and make a determination of a narrative of how those logs got there, and how many trees approximately came down, and if they can determine how they came down, whether they show any signs of being broken, or roots that lifted up or something like that, and then submit a narrative to us, and then we can go on from there. I think right at the moment we don't really know what happened, and so Fen, is that we generally in this sort of situation, we don't know what happened, and we require you to hire somebody who can map out where the wetlands is, show us where those logs are on a plan, and also give us a professional opinion of how they got there. And then with that information, we can then make a determination whether they can stay or whether they need to be moved, or if there's any other submission that would be required. Does that make sense?
Let me repeat your question, so make sure I totally understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, could you please give me this chance? So
Yeah.
you want me have somebody measure the wetland,
Mm-hmm.
then make sure the log can stay there, or I need to move in that. Is that
Right.
correct?
So that's, yeah, skipped a couple stages there, but somebody would, a wetland scientist, and Lori in the office can help you out with potential people locally who can come out. They will locate on a plan where that wetland is relative to your house, and they'll also locate where the logs are, and they'll try to determine with your help how the logs, is there someplace on your property that shows a tree that came down on its own? And so that we have a broken stump, or we can see something, where this came from. And then we can make a determination whether it's prudent to have those logs stay or if they should be moved.
Okay, so what can I do next step? I contact Laurie,
Yeah. And
and
she will,
Laurie contact me.
you contact Lori.
I
Anna,
contact Laurie, make appointment to somebody goes there, do the inspection, right?
well, yeah, she will give you some names that you would then contact of people who have expertise in defining where the wetland border is, and also at determining how the trees got there, whether they were diseased or whether they,
No,
you could
no.
still-
The trees is full, so I have somebody cut the tree for the lot.
Right,
That's
so
on the inside. Yeah.
we're just looking for proof that it fell, and that usually is obvious, and then they can make it, and they can locate them, and then they can make a recommendation on whether they can stay there. Anna?
Yeah, just since when you first started speaking, Ben, would it be helpful if we emailed this to you directly? I know we don't usually do that, but maybe Laura, you could summarize the usual process and send the list of folks over proactively. It might be helpful to have it in writing, is my thinking.
Okay.
Or the other way.
Okay.
No, I think that mhm.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Does that, Lori, so that in essence is a proto enforcement order. We're looking to get some information before we make a determination of what to do. Does that seem, so is that, Lori, could you go ahead?
So if I could get an email, then I could send Ben over some information. And so there's no enforcement order right now. It's just setting up the information and having her hire the person and come back to the commission.
Yeah.
Okay.
So give her a list of the people that we recommend.
Right.
Oh, we don't recommend, we just have a list. We
Not
don't
recommend, but a list.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so Fen, do you can you the Lori's email address?
Yeah, I think I have Laurie email address. I contacted her, the December. So I will send the email to you, Lauren, tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And then
Yeah.
she can respond with
you
some.
gave me the
Yep,
information.
and then she can respond with some instructions, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Okay.
I will follow that.
And
Thank you
Anna,
very much.
this is around the corner from your house, right?
Yeah, it's right up the street. I think this skunk cabbage is creeping closer to the house, so we may find that it's a little off from what DEP thinks, but I am of the opinion that it is unlikely a full restoration plan will be needed, but removing or spreading out the logs might be the extent of it, but we should see.
So, and Jen, you were out, you actually took pictures, right?
Yes.
And, but you couldn't tell from the time you were out there that there was no evidence that these had been, you didn't see where they had come down or anything like that. These had been cut and moved, or?
Well, there was one tree at the very edge of the lawn before you
Mhm.
got into the woods that had been recently cut, and that would have been in the buffer zone.
Mm-hmm. And had cut, so, but you couldn't tell whether it was cut because part of it had fallen or anything like that? There was no,
There was only a little bit of the stump left.
but it was a clear cut, it was cut clearly, cleanly. Yeah,
Yes.
because sometimes something might break 6 feet above the ground, and then when they come in to log it, they'll cut it flush. And Fen, you said you had some photos of these trees when they had
Yes,
fallen over?
yes,
So why
yes.
don't
I
you,
have photo. So the tree fall, and also my neighbor, the 17, they saw the tree fall.
yeah,
They told
so why
me
don't,
they saw the tree
if you
fall.
can, as part of your email, can you attach that photo or photos to and send to Lori? You know, showing
Okay, yes, yes, I can do
showing,
that.
yeah, showing the fallen tree. That would be very
Yeah,
helpful for us
yeah,
to
yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I can send the picture. Yeah,
Okay.
tomorrow.
Excellent. Okay, then we'll just get to work on this and come, try to come up with the fair thing to do here. Okay. Any questions? Okay. And Anna, I just wanted, because since you're around the corner, once we get a little bit more information, we may ask for a walk by or something like that. So,
Extremely doable.
okay, thank you.
I,
Appreciate
and
it.
I'm, as you know, I drive by there 3 times a day, so if you need me as well, I can easily meet you, Anna.
So, okay. So any other questions, Fen?
Yeah, so I want to make it clear. So if the tree, I don't want to cut more trees. So I just want to make it clear the tree before my front of my house, so I can cut that, right? Is that correct? Because the 2010 October, so people come here do inspections. They told me the tree in front of my house, I can cut that.
So let's, Janet, did you, as you looked into this, did you recall any site inspection that you may have done in the last few years where somebody requested a tree to come down at that
Yes.
address?
So it was probably several years ago.
Yeah.
And the trees, like anything in front of the house is outside the buffer.
Okay.
So that I do remember going over that with the owner at the time.
Okay.
And I know I have an email, usually when I go out and approve any tree removal or confirm if it's in the
Mhm.
buffer.
So could you, can you see if you can pull that up so that we just have it as part of this ongoing record here?
Yes, I will look for that. I've gotten a new computer since then, so if it's over 2 years, then I will definitely look. Yep.
Okay, appreciate it. Amy, did you want to say something? Oh, you're muted.
Whether or not Grand Hill is a scenic road, and so front trees
Grand Hill?
fall under the, no, is it? I was asking.
I don't
I
recall
doubt
ever
it
seeing.
is.
No, it's fairly new, relative
Yeah,
to
no,
other scenic
okay.
roads. So, yeah,
Then you don't have to worry. Never mind.
okay.
Just didn't want to
Um,
get her in hot water with the planning board.
No. So, Fen, thanks for bringing that to our attention. So we'll try to dig that up. Do you recall? Well, and you weren't the original owner at the time, so we'll see if we can find that out. But as we look into this a little bit more, it sounds likely that that permission will be renewed because it is outside of the buffer. And then that would be, would you then have a company come in to take that down?
Sorry, I cannot.
Oh,
I
so
didn't understand.
so the tree that you asked us about is at the end of your driveway? Is that
No,
correct?
no. You know the I think 2020. So I asked call 2 times to do the inspection about the tree. So at that time, I think about maybe cut the front and the 2 in the backyard is already tight. So I talking with, they told me the tree in front of my front yard is okay. you can cut. The
Yeah.
backyard, I need to do inspection. So they
Mhm.
they finish the inspection. They said that 2 tree I can cut.
Oh, they
But
did.
you know, yeah, they did. But at that time, because you know I have not enough money, you know,
Yeah,
so
that back then, yeah.
yeah, so I didn't do that. So
And did either one of those trees are the ones that fell?
so for this time, I try to cut another tree because when the people come here, I ask them to try to ask them to remove the 4 tree. There's a
Mhm.
big one for they try to move the 4 tree. They said another 2 tree, not the already inspected, another 2 tree may fall soon. So they said it's very dangerous. So I call the conservation, and then December, I think 20, they said they will send some people coming here to do inspection. But because you know I did maybe somebody coming here, but I'm not home, so I didn't get feedback. So I'm lazy. I said okay, so don't cut that.
So was that December, when you say December 20, is that December of 2020 or December 20th of 2023?
December 2023. So
Oh, okay,
after
so
the
just
bigger
recently,
storm, yeah,
oh, just recently,
yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah.
So,
So, but nobody feedback, so I didn't cut that tree. They still there. So if somebody can make an inspection, you can see there's a 2 trees. They still there. So I didn't cut that. I just cut 2 trees already inspection 3 years ago, and also clean in the backyard, clean the 4 tree, you know.
So Janet, would this be, I'm just trying to figure out what the most expeditious way here. Would it be helpful for you and Fen to actually set up an appointment and you can look to see about this um, potential previous approval and then actually walk the ground and get an idea of what, what trees may have been approved and what trees actually came down?
The only trees that would have been approved.
Yeah, it's be better for me. Yeah.
So just, okay, so go ahead, Janet.
I have received no information from this property owner.
Mhm.
So a couple years, I did not get any kind of notification last December, but
Mhm.
the only correspondence would have been as we walked the property, anything outside the buffer in front of the house could be removed.
Right.
But I honestly think having a formal delineation before any further site inspection would be the way to go.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah, I'm wondering, so what I'm hearing is the trees that were cut into logs that are in your backyard, closer to the wetland fen. Did all of those trees fall down on their own?
The bigger tree, one tree fall down.
Mhm.
The backyard, one tree fall down. Another 2 trees already did the inspection. 2020 October.
Of 2020 or 2023?
No. 2020, 2020. They
Yeah,
already did, but I didn't do that.
but
Then
was that an inspection with conservation or that was just a tree company?
conservation,
So
conservation
so when did you
from
move in there? When did,
I think it's 2000 August,
of
2000 August,
2000?
2020
Okay.
August
And then in
2020.
October, you think you spoke to somebody at our office who
Yeah.
came out and looked at them and gave you permission to take those, but those trees are still standing now, is that correct?
No,
They felt
no.
they,
They have they have they said I can cut that. They told me I can cut the tree front my
Right.
house, and also for backyard I need to do inspection. But told me, I said these two trees already tied. They said you can cut that. So,
And did
but
you,
I didn't do that. Yeah.
right, and so those trees are still there?
No, right now, this time I cut
Oh, you did, okay.
because
So did
I
you,
clean the
did you,
full tree and also cut
did,
that
so
tree.
did you get anything in writing in 2020 from our office giving you permission to cut?
2000.
In October 2020, which is what you're saying. You know,
But I didn't. But when people come here do assessment, I'm here. My brother here.
but was
So
that us or was that a tree company?
no, not tree company. It's
It was conservation?
yes, conservation.
Okay, so can you find a letter that that was, when after, Janet, when you give grant permission to people, you send out an email or a letter, typically giving people a response. If somebody asks you to look at no more than 3 trees, you then give them a follow-up letter. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So
And
I may have that. I will do a search, but I lost emails when I got my new computer.
oh, well, but the
I
emails
would-
should
I-
emails
I-
should still be there. They may be on your at that point you might have been using Comcast. I guess you still are, but the you
Lori
should be
should
able
have
to,
shouldn't there be some records in Lori's?
Yes, I
Files?
always copy Lori on all my
Right,
trips.
so Lori should have some formal file too.
okay. Go
If
ahead,
I
Laura.
was copied, I'll have the email.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So let's Fen, why don't you email Lori tomorrow so she'll have your email address. Okay.
Okay. I will.
Then both Lori and Janet make a concerted effort to find any previous communication back in 2020 for this. And then it seems that the next step here may be that this may come under our regular flexible tree ability to review what's there. And if 3 trees came down, Jen, I know you want to have a delineation. I'm hearing that.
Yeah.
But some of these trees may have come from the front, some of them may have come down on their own, some of them may have already been approved. And
Yeah,
I'm
but
just,
it should not have been brought to a wetland or a near wetland area.
that's fine. That's fine. But I think I'd like to find out what kind of trees we're dealing with before we go and ask for a full delineation here. As if what I understand that. And if it's a matter of just removing the trees or the logs, I can see that as well. I'm not sure that rises to a level of basically an RDA level, unless what we see is much more damage than what we're hearing. But first, I'd like to just find out what we have on record for tree permissions. And normally with tree permissions, Fen, once you have permission to take a tree down, the tree company takes that tree away. Unless there's some.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we're gonna see what's pre-existing for permissions. Okay, if we don't find anything, then we will move forward onto moving with an enforcement order that outlines that you'll have to have a wetlands expert out there. And through all this, we're giving you the courtesy to see if we have something some pre-existing permissions. And that may affect how we deal with this, or there may be more trees than were permitted. So we have to take it a step at a time. So sending Lori the email will give her an ability to look up previous emails previous communication regarding tree permissions. If you think your brother might have gotten that email instead of you, is that a possibility?
Let me try to do that by myself. So I will send the email to Lauren
Great.
tomorrow. Well, I
Okay.
will follow the direction step by step. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I just,
For
yeah,
your
let's,
patience. Yeah.
yep, okay, thank you. Then let's do that, and then we'll we'll take this up at the next meeting with more information. Okay. So, so thank you, and we'll follow through on that. Okay. That's directed at you, Fen. So you understand how we'll do things now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
will send it to email to Lauren tomorrow first.
And you'll also look for any other emails you may have had from conservation over the last 4 years for permission that you were granted, supposedly.
Mm. This,
In October of 2020, you maintained that you spoke to conservation about taking down some trees.
yes.
Okay, you should have an email from conservation about that. Please
Yeah.
look at your, please
Yeah,
look at
I
your,
have the email, but you know, I'm not sure. But they come here, they talking with me. I will have I think it's October 6th something.
that's
Because
all we're looking for is
yeah,
whoever can find it, we want verification. If we don't find it, then we're going to drop back to what we talked about at the beginning of our session here, which is you will have to, get a wetland scientist out there to delineate everything. First, because you're saying that you talked to somebody and got approval, we want to see proof of that. We're going to look on our side, you're going to look on your side. If it's not
okay.
found, then we'll fall back to what we talked about earlier. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
great.
I really
Thank you.
appreciate. Yeah.
Okay, have a good evening. Okay,
Mm.
bye-bye. Let's see. Next, land management work group update.
Yes. So a few things. One, supplies have arrived for the bog bridge, and I believe they're all sitting at Greg's house right now. Anyway, Rick and Greg started working, determined we're going to use Rick saws. So that's going to start coming together probably Saturday and then the following weekend. So that's underway, which is pretty exciting. We're working on the strategic land management plan. Janet sent that around if everyone got a draft, or I can screen share.
Yeah,
So
I think
the plan,
because that's one of the things Janet wanted to bring up, and I think it makes sense for us to bring it up together. So that's the comprehensive land management plan. Did anyone else have a chance to read that? Amy or Sarah?
didn't, and I apologize. I'm gonna
You're
bag
gonna have to
out.
leave, right?
I'm gonna,
So we have
I
no
apologize.
we have no more votes for this evening, correct?
Right? Is that okay?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to make sure. I believe there are no votes or anything like that. So have
I
a
just want to
lovely.
do a shout out for Anna. She did an amazing job at town meeting on Monday. So I'm just woohoo, Anna. That's all I have to say. You made us proud.
I saw all the emails from everyone that worked together on that, and it was, so it was very collaborative.
You
very
were
much
so
appreciated.
you were so confident and so approachable, and I just you did an amazing job. So
And the vote was not as close as the leash law vote. So
oh my God.
And I think I was going to come up and say hello because have we ever met in person before?
I don't think so. I think just me
Oh,
walking
that's
up
so
the aisle.
funny.
I ran out early.
I've met Anna because she came out to the walk when she walked with the hounds. So that's when I finally met her.
Yeah, no. So I was looking forward to, and then I turned around and you were gone. So
I had to run early.
one of these days. Okay. Then okay, good night, Sarah.
Good night.
Have a lovely sleep.
Sorry to leave you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
And why don't we bring up a joint basis here with Janet and Anna on the comprehensive land management plan.
Yeah. Do you want me to do the rundown, or
Yeah.
Janet, this has been your work. You can do it. I don't want to steal your work.
Sure. So we've been talking for a while about the need for land management plans on all of our conservation land. And we've done a number piecemeal. Valley Farm and Dedham Ave have land management plans that we really haven't been following. But the land management group thought it would make sense, instead of doing things piecemeal, to develop a comprehensive conservation land management plan. So this is fairly common. I've seen examples from about 5 other towns. I can send those out. But this is an outline, the summary, the projected costs, scope of work, and timeline. So we wanted to run this by the commission, get your blessing to further develop this. And then the other piece we needed, I know Anna sent a message to Lori to see for the current fiscal year what we have left in our land management and trail budget. So we can get a sense as to how we need to phase this, because it'll be a multi-fiscal year project.
So in this, I read it, and were you looking at to collaborate with a few other departments because they, because you thought there'd be overlap?
Well,
Open space and planning and park and rec and
Open
so
space
forth.
has no budget.
I know, no, I'm moving towards the
No
budget. I'm moving towards the budget concept here by asking this question because
We
the
didn't ask
idea,
for the less.
you know, the idea of $30,000 for us to do that, which I think is probably the right ballpark. And the question of using FY24 and 25 funds, Lori, do you have a ballpark after the money that has been set aside for the for Wild Woods and so forth, what we have left in our budget?
Yes, after the last bill paid to Medway Lumber for oh, I just noticed Will is in the waiting room.
Oh, no.
After the Medway Lumber payment, the lumber you were just talking about, Anna, I show a balance of 6,265 in trail maintenance. Land management has 5,000 that has not been touched.
Okay.
yet.
So that's what I was going to point out too, because we have this every year at 5,000, but we don't want to take 6 years to do this. And
Where it'll take.
I can just answer a
30,000.
couple of questions.
what's that, Amy?
It's, so we don't have, I know the inventory of land. I do have that.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we don't have that many pieces that are active, maybe that's, but I think we have enough pieces that we want plans on, but we have the 2 Mass Audubon plans. Mass Audubon has a template that they use and that they have on their website that they used for the Valley Farm and Dedham Street ones, which we're not necessarily following per se, but that's really not going to help. This isn't going to help us do that. I don't think. I guess what I'm looking at is like $30,000. Would I rather get 3 to 5 more plans, which will pretty much cover all of the other properties, which we actually have actual active use of, and then go back and maybe look at all the all of the other ones. I don't know. I guess I'm, in spite of being a former consultant, I'm bridling at the use of doing this as a consulting project.
Well, I think that's a
something I
valid
can
point.
actually implement.
So I think, well, number one, I think this starts with us first. So I think by putting this together, it gives us an ability to review it and pose questions just like that, you know, as to what level of comprehensiveness do we need to address this with in the near future, and in part of deciding that, what are the properties that, you know, that stand out to us that we want to actively manage, and then relative to some of the things such as, I guess it's really how comprehensive we actually need to be for the properties that we have, such as you outlined in phase two, Janet, and also some of the things, I think, didn't you have something in there relative to climate change and things of that sort? I think within the next 5 years, I'm not sure if we need to spend the money on that. We're just trying to get our ability to do a better job with trail management and do some of the infrastructure issues that we've wanted to do, and then I think selecting the next projects that we want to do over the next few years would be helpful. And I think a lot of that is stuff that we can review in-house because we're familiar with the property, rather than having to pay the front $10,000 of that for someone else to get familiar with the property. But Janet, you wanted to bring up a few things?
Yeah, so in working with municipalities for like 30 years, and more importantly, what we just heard at town meeting last night in terms of the budget, the forecasts for upcoming expenses, mainly with infrastructure. It's clear to me that to make a cogent, compelling argument to the capital budget committee, because some of this work could be capital, as well as to warrant, that we need to have really a good game plan and a comprehensive plan. I don't see, I think 30 is at the limit, but again, over 2 years, split over a fiscal year. This project, this is not a huge lift. We have a lot of information already. It can be gathered, but the site work and assessment is not something I don't think any of us have the bandwidth or time or capacity to do. We really need an ecologist. We need a strong team. And then we can put together an outline, identify priorities. Right now, we're kind of doing things ad hoc and without an overall game plan and a good story to present. So I do think that we have a lot of information already that can be gathered. I'm willing to put in some volunteer time and effort. I think Anna is as well. I'm sure Amy is. But I think that we can wing this, a comprehensive land management plan at a professional level, I don't think that's realistic.
That's not what I'm
no, and I'm not saying that I'm saying
we need
I'm
more.
saying $30,000 based on what we heard the other night is winging of an extraordinary degree, but we do have $5,000 a year that we put aside for this that we have not really been availing ourselves of. And I think you're right that the 30 may be the high end of things. I think the ability to like you just mentioned, of you and Anna putting a little extra time to sort of distill this a little bit more, and then the idea of using the budget that we currently have, and maybe a little bit of the management budget as well for 25, to crystallize what we should focus on. I think that's appropriate. I think right at the moment, immediately jumping to a consultant to try to pull all this together, I think we need a little pre-distillation here on our own to bring together the parcels that we have and what we as a commission think the utility would be. Many of these parcels don't need active management, because
we have several parcels that do need active management plans. And I guess what I'm thinking is that I would, if I have $30,000 or anything less or significantly less than that, I'd rather do what we did for Valley Farm and Dedham Street, for Wildwoods, for Snow's Hill, for Brody, maybe or maybe not, and
Springdale,
and then maybe we can start to put the superstructure around it. I guess I'm looking at it whether we're going to come from the top down or the bottom up, and I'm suggesting we go from the bottom up this time, at this point. And because I don't think we even have the I don't think we have the baseline yet.
Mhm.
So bringing somebody in to look at it, we're going to get a lot of boilerplate because we aren't going to be able to give them enough detail or data to get anything more than theoretically this is what you should be doing,
Mhm.
as
Well,
opposed
I think
to,
meeting in the
Valley
middle.
Farm and Dedham Street were pretty, they had tactical stuff in them, some of which we've been able to do and some of which we haven't, but I thought they were very useful.
Well, I think even the concept of this gives us something to focus on. And I
Yeah.
think the idea of going from the bottom up and then having enough information at hand to make the consultant's job easier at a slightly later point could be a way to work this. I think this helps us focus.
Yeah.
And
No,
then I
that's
think
great.
and I think the other, but then some of it gets into the bureaucratic weeds that much larger communities may have the ability to handle. But whether we break things down into, what is it, Chapter 97, Article 97, and things of that nature, yeah, we can address that once we have our baseline, and then, and get the appropriate consultant to, and also have the ability to review some of the other towns, how they went about this, to see if we need that level of granularity for the properties that we have, and based on what we can do. So I think this is a great start. And we do have some money to spend on it. And I would hope that over the next 2 years, 10,000 we already have set aside for this. We should be able to get something for that will give us an idea of how big a plan we really need.
I think we should do ourselves the phase 1, which you sort of outlined, which is looking at inventory and the current use and conditions,
So
and
Janet
then
mentioned
rank them for management plans using that, and
Can I
then
just jump in?
yeah.
Well, I just had a clarification here. What's the draft? Is that open space RP? What is that? OSRP?
Open space and recreation
plan.
And you said that we have
the thing
one
that
of
I
those?
had almost finished, and then Courtney left, leaving my maps half done, and and then
Is that-
COVID, and I lost
Okay.
momentum.
Is that the draft you were referring to, Janet?
Yeah, because I've been
Okay.
providing her with it's like 95% done, and it's just hail is hail and life have been distracting me from getting it
Yeah.
submitted.
So Janet, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so I may not have accurately outlined this, but I see this isn't an either or. This isn't a big picture or let's do our management plans. This is a comprehensive effort to look at things at a large scale and then develop the management plans for each of the properties. So this is again, a comprehensive land management plan. And a big piece of it is hiring someone, an ecologist, to go out, evaluate all of our properties. Where are there invasives? Where is there a missing wildlife corridor? Maybe we want to identify areas to purchase or try to protect. Are there threats to wetlands? Are there culverts draining directly into a wetland that's impairing it? So that is a critical piece of the professional services we need, but it's just a piece. We do have a lot of existing information already, but again, this isn't, this would give us, I believe, everything we need to identify and prioritize our conservation land and what's needed. So I don't see it as an either or something that would lead to other piecemeal effects. So maybe I didn't articulate that properly.
Well,
in the beginning.
what I just heard you
A land
communicate.
management plan for
What's that?
this would include a plan like the ones we have for Valley Farm for Wild Woods?
It sounds
Yes.
like this would, well, that might be, it sounds like those would be on the tail end. This would be an overarching view of saying, this is what you have, and these are the things you should focus on. And then you do the management plans on a per site basis. Is that
Yes,
correct?
I'm getting hung up on the word framework because that just tells me this is how you're gonna.
You see a generic thing there, but but the other thing there is, I also, what I hear is, frankly, if I have 100-year-old culvert that needs repair, like we did on Dedham Street, which we used our funds for, we had that culvert that we had to replace going down to the river there. If I have a culvert out in the middle of the woods, I am not going to care about that until around 2050, because there's so many other things that we need to deal with. So I think, number one, I think what would be helpful is to have to be able to review a couple similar towns, their land management plans, their comprehensive land management plans. It sounds like, Janet, you must have reviewed a few of those as you were putting this together. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
So can you send that? I think we have to start somewhere, and I think as I said earlier, that this gives us a focus. Can you send a few of those out to us
Yes.
so that we get an idea of an example of what other what towns are looking at, so that we because it's on this single page presentation, which is, I'm over the moon that you distilled it to a single page for us to get started with. I think that's great. So I think that would be helpful. That would be the next step for us to get an idea of maybe a clearer idea of what you're referring to in some of the paragraphs here.
Okay. Yep. I will do that.
And then, but I think we are, as a board, we're starting to gain some momentum for proactiveness, even though we have had a hellish schedule for the last few years. But you can just feel it that we're trying to get things done, and that's and I think this can help us build on that and give us some midterm goals there. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up concerning this? Okay. Let's see. Will came on, and actually Will came on around the time he was supposed to. We just moved ahead a little faster. So why don't we come back to Will so that we can bring Will up to speed on all the decisions we made on his behalf.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Are you on phone?
I am on my cell phone, so I don't have the video
okay.
up.
So we just yeah, we actually we had a number of continuances this evening, so we took a look at things a little earlier. Well, actually, probably close to when we're around 9 o'clock. So we had been discussing are you working with Goddard?
Yes.
Okay. So Janet, what is it we're waiting to look there? There's both some feedback from Goddard relative to the enforcement order, relative to the culvert and a few other things, and then on the RDA, what was it that we want to get updated on relative to the driveway and stuff?
Yep. So the focus of this meeting was to try to close the loose ends on the RDA. The enforcement order, we are expecting the restoration plan submitted to us by May 15th. So there's really nothing on the enforcement order unless Will wants to give us an update. So that's pretty much a completely separate matter than is the RDA, which is just the front of the driveway.
So let me just bring to Will's attention. So Will, I don't know if you recognize that. So the 15th of May, which was determined probably 2 months ago, we're supposed to have a restoration plan in hand.
Yeah.
How is that going?
As far as I know, it's still on track. Goddard got out. When was that? I think maybe was it Friday? Last Friday. So they did the delineation in the impact report. So they should, in theory, at least to my knowledge, be able to deliver the restoration plan with no problem by the 15th.
Well, so normally we would want it by a week before that, so we have a chance to
Okay.
review it. So
Oh,
just
okay.
an idea of, yeah, so put a little fire under them to let them know that.
Is there a
that's it.
meeting on the 15th?
No, it's on, so it's on the 22nd, but we need things in writing a week before so we can review.
Oh,
So
okay.
plans and things of that sort.
Okay. Well, that's a week before today, so
Yep.
I'll have to give them a call
Yep.
tomorrow and see what the feasibility of that is.
Yep, and then you can update us on that. Okay.
Okay.
And then relative to the RDA, Janet?
So I don't know, Will, if you can share your screen again to review exactly what was proposed in the RDA. But I know I've talked to you, Phil, I mean, Will, and the other members that I would not recommend expansion of the driveway. I believe it's too close to that vernal pool / BVW. And that you know, it's just too close, and that
Yeah.
there is an existing alternative, which is just accessing the driveway from one curb cut, not two. So.
Yeah.
So was my understanding, Will, that's, you pretty much agreed to that at our last meeting. You had reviewed all that and stated that you weren't looking at doing the loop anymore. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to get that out there. So that wouldn't be there's nothing new there. Anything else, Janet? If the driveway is, kept where it is, what additional things do you have questions on regarding the RDA?
So we would need a revised site plan then.
Mhm.
That shows that curb cut removed. And then it would just show the stone wall, the two stone walls. And I think that's it. But we just need to have something revised so we can look at it and we're all on the same page then.
Yep.
Okay, so if we could have that ready for the next meeting, is that possible, Will?
Sure.
Okay, great. So I imagine what you had asked, it sounded like, so you had you already placed the granite columns where that second opening was supposed to be? And then and the idea was
Yeah.
and were you gonna fill in between there with the wall?
No, it's just, that's,
Join up to it with on the
well,
left
it's,
and-
it's probably 5,000 or 6,000 to fill in between the wall there. So
Mhm.
as I was saying, we can just leave it open and do a
Mhm.
gate and, achieve kind of the look we were looking for and stick to our budget while,
Right, so you maintain the aesthetics, but scale back on the functionality.
correct.
Okay. So I think the revised plan that would show that, because right now we have a plan in front of us that's showing the loop, and we just need something that makes it hew to what you just mentioned there. Okay. So if you could modify that so it shows that. And anything else, Janet, that you had concerns about relative to the RDA?
No, I think that's it. And then we'd again would need that a week before the meeting, so on the 15th. And perhaps with a short narrative.
Actually, it looks like he fell off. Oh,
Oh.
he's back. He's coming back.
I think he's back.
Will, are you there?
So yeah, you can unmute, Will.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I just dropped it. That was my fault. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so since you were gone, we just revised your entire stone wall for you.
Oh, great.
So we were looking at we're talking about revising your RDA plan so that we see what we just talked about. So that you show on the RDA plan a proposed gate, that the columns that you've already installed, that you take out the loop driveway, and just basically update the RDA plan to what we've been discussing at this meeting in the last one.
Yes.
Okay, and now the other question is, who did that plan for you originally?
I mean, I made the
Oh, did you?
the changes, and then the original plan was just from
Okay,
Joyce's 2021
got it.
RDA
Now,
plan
yeah,
for the
now
septic.
I remember. Yeah, so make those changes onto the changes that you already had done. Do some
Yeah,
erasing or pull up,
yeah,
and if you can have that ready for us next week as well, so that we can review it a week prior,
okay,
that would be helpful.
okay.
Okay. Uh, is any commissioners have any other questions for Will? Okay. Great. That's pretty much it. So we need
Okay.
to
One
remind
thing I
everybody.
wanted to clarify, John, is we're gonna do some plantings that aren't on that plan.
Mhm.
I don't know if that require, I mean, it's just some cedars and a maple tree. I don't know if, and some mulching. I don't know if that requires any additional permitting or anything.
Well, the thing there would be to try to locate them the best you can,
Yeah.
and you can pull up and see what the little drawing representations are for for drafting,
Yeah.
and just label them. Mulching just around those bushes, or where were we thinking of doing the mulch?
It's gonna be in the, it might actually not even be in the buffer. It's gonna be over by the house. We're not gonna mulch.
You have something on your property that's not in the buffer?
Depending on who you ask and what kind of ruler they have, it's possible.
So yeah, so the concern we have with mulch is, especially if it's wood chips, for example,
Yeah.
wood chips don't go in the buffer. Mulch doesn't go on, on the pond bank or anything like that. But if it's, ancillary to foundation planting and things of that nature, yeah, just show it, and
Okay.
there should be no problem with that.
Okay.
And that's, yeah, the more you show, because it helps distill in your own mind what it is you want to do,
Yeah.
the better for all of us, so that nobody's surprised. But planting is different than driveways too, so we're a little
Yeah.
bit more flexible.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
and Will, I just wanted to mention, I had sent you that buffer zone guide with, so you definitely want to go with natives, and
Yeah.
I would think if it's over on the side of the property near the vernal pool, going with shrubs would be better than trees.
Right. Okay.
Cedars are really susceptible to a disease, Willie Delgid, right now. I would not plant cedars.
Okay.
But I would maybe look at some of the shrub options over there.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Great. Well, thank you, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, and we'll look forward to the new plans next week.
Okay. Thanks, folks.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye. Let's see. As I'm looking through things, mosquito mailers.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
made some progress. So I sent this out. I talked to Jim probably a month ago, and we talked about doing a brochure thing, and then I started working on it, and I realized, oh my goodness, no one's going to open our brochure. So I tried switching to a postcard, which you all have a draft for. Let me share my screen while it's
Now,
up.
did we actually have a postcard in hand, or yeah? So
Yeah.
is this a variation on something that you had found, or?
No, it's a variation on the thing I did for Dover Days in September.
Oh, that's what. Okay, got it. Yeah.
So a lot of that is the same text. Some of it was rewritten. That's the same photo. But it's now postcard form.
Okay.
So the current plan is to figure out how to mail it, which we think is postal patron, and then use the town's postage, and to get it printed up. But I'd love some reviews, and also, like, do we like a postcard? Does this make sense?
Yeah, interesting. So the when it says requires a permit, where do they get the permit from?
Us. They have to come to us. Amy, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I guess I thought we were gonna do
An insert?
insert in the billing, in the tax bill.
I think we could. It seemed trickier to orchestrate, but
Although
I could talk to Chris about it.
A postcard in that, or a card that one can
So a postcard that
Oh.
would fit into a
Well,
long envelope.
yeah, a card that's, you know, what is it, 8.5 or 11, it's 8.5
By
by,
3.5.
or, an A10 size
Sure.
card. So that it's just a little different than than a piece of paper. That's
Well,
all.
I think that, but I'm just saying those, but that would be a fold out as on regular conventional paper, and I think
No,
Anna,
no, I was thinking of just doing a card that's
right, but that wouldn't be
size of the
A10. That would be that's a different size than A10. But
This big
something that
though,
would fit it.
something that fits into
Yeah,
an
I know
envelope.
something.
card that would
Yeah.
fit in an A10 envelope is what I
But
meant.
the A10 envelope is one where anything that fits in there is an 8.5 by 11 that's folded, right?
Yeah,
Is that-
so it'd be 8.5 by 3.
By 3 or whatever
We
we
could
find
do
out what the right.
a 3x5 is kind of small, but that would be a standard size.
Yeah, I guess we should grab one of those envelopes and see what fits. For before we but I could see.
I don't know. I was just it's just an idea.
No, I like the idea of postcard stock inside an
Mhm.
envelope like that, because regular paper, I think, is not going to get unfolded. And
Yeah.
so, but although the thing that does concern me is that there's still a number of people in Dover who have mortgages, so that they never open up their property bill because it gets taken care of by, or it gets taken care of by the mortgage company.
Okay. Well,
Although
never
when I opened up my property bill, I don't know, 2 quarters ago, and was significantly surprised and realized I should have opened it up sooner. But but no, I like that idea of, if we're going to send something on, and if we can piggyback on that. And it looks like with the white space you have on the second page there, I keep moving my mouse to move your but that we should be able to move things on to fit it in something that's like 8.5 by 3. Do you think?
Yeah, we could probably condense it.
Yeah, so let's find.
I
First we need.
would be concerned. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, first we find out what the actual envelope size is. But go ahead.
Well,
you-
yeah, I mean, first you should figure out if anybody's gonna open up their tax bill besides me.
Yeah. And then you were concerned, Anna?
I was just gonna say that my concern is we'll miss folks, especially new folks in town who've probably purchased
Not gonna
with a
get-
mortgage.
Right, and they're not going to get a tax bill for another year because it's going
Yeah.
to the. So I don't disagree. I guess part of it would be to find out, which I think gives you more flexibility relative to your postcard size, is to find out an idea of what the postal costs would be. For, I guess it's around 2,000 of them that would go out.
Yeah. I will contact Chris,
Okay.
the assistant town manager or administrator. I feel
And
like
then
he
do
will
you have-
know.
And do you have an idea to print up a postcard on 2 sides? Can it be done for less than $1 a piece?
Yes. I don't know that I was looking, so this was done in Canva and it was printing up, they're saying 1,000 for $250.
Wow, cool.
So it's pretty good. I
Yeah.
would assume there are better deals out there because vendor lock-in and all that, so I can look around a little bit.
Mhm.
But I do think we're getting under $1 a piece.
Yeah, no, that would be $500 for all the houses in Dover. So then we find out postage. That sounds doable and reasonable. As well as maybe having some extra leftovers for Dover days.
Yeah.
So no. Let's see. Yeah, so if you just find out some of the costing, and that would be great.
Yeah.
Let's see. Then Janet, we had some correspondence regarding Algonquin Gas.
Yes, so they will be beginning their work soon. They have an easement over off of Claybrook Road along Riverside up to the Charles River. It's about a 1-week project. They're doing an investigation of their existing pipeline, no expansion, no improvements. Again, just investigation of the existing pipeline to determine if there are any other issues. So they are exempt under the Wetland Act and our bylaw. They do have to they have gotten a Army Corps certification and a water quality certification. So this is a courtesy notification, but I will be out there to monitor, and they do have to do site restoration and then give us a follow-up report.
Okay. Did anybody have a chance to review Janet's invoice? It came out around 6 days ago or so.
Yeah.
Is that, I didn't hear.
Can we
was that a
vote
yes?
on it with only 3 of us?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, if we, yeah,
I
we
don't think we
can't.
can.
No, we can't. So, however, okay, then let's, maybe we can,
I have something more I'd like her to do though.
which is,
For the May, I want to add to the May invoice.
which is,
I've just been informed by Sarah Molino, who heard it herself and also heard a lot from Sarah Cabot, that there's been a lot of tree cutting on the lots that are part of the old Charles Adams estate, 195 to 201, that got subdivided. So they're now, I think it's
off where Mill Street,
193, 195, 197, 199, and 201.
they got subdivided into that many lots?
Got subdivided. Well, it
There were two there, weren't there?
201 got a little bit, sorry, 195, which is the main lot, got a little bit of land from them from 201, and then they were able to make 4 out of it, and then 201 was already. And anyway, I can show you what happened, but the point is that in the back of that the front part along Dedham Street is all upland. In the back and in the lot that's closest to town have a lot of wetlands and a riparian, and part of it even has I think it's a federal wetlands easement on it. So
really?
because part of must be Pawissett Brook comes through, or some of it is the riparian for Pawissett Brook, or maybe something that feeds into Pawissett Brook. I have to look at my maps. The point is that they may be almost done, but better to catch them eventually than to completely ignore them. But I just think that somebody ought to check on and make sure that they stopped cutting before they got to the buffer zone.
Could you shoot me an email with as much information as you have, so I'm not cold on that?
Yes, I will. I literally got the email while I was waiting for Lori or I saw the email when I was waiting for Lori to let me into the meeting, so.
Yeah, we don't have any permits on any of those lots, so, okay.
No, but we wouldn't, as long as they minded their P's and Q's and kept to the front of the lots. Right.
Well, and also if they could be doing that work on the lots prior to requesting a building permit. And so there's nobody looking over their shoulder. So,
right.
Yeah. So, so it seems reasonable to look into that. Janet, on your invoice, I was curious about Miller Hill, which we had Paul doing, the most of that work there. Yeah. Then you ended up with 12 hours in April on that. Was that, I know we talked about, looking at tree replacement, if there's any penalty or, due to things that are relative to the buffer and what we can do for actual enforcement beyond everyone, working together to do all that stuff. As I've mentioned, as Jim has mentioned, for the things that came down within the buffer and within the wetlands, it looks like they're complying with a 1.5 to 1 ratio, but were there any other, because they're not meeting the basal inches, were there any other, I thought that was pretty much what we were looking for. And so the extra time that went in there, because you hadn't been billing much for them prior to this, was that, can you fill us in on what changed there?
So I, for some reason, became the facilitator of all the communications on this, and it's like hurting. So I get separate emails from an attorney for the trustees or an attorney for the Rollins, and we've said several times things were supposed to go through Lori in the Concom office,
Mm-hmm.
To keep people up to date, because there's a lot of moving parts to that, but somehow it fell onto me. So honestly, a lot of that is simply facilitating communications, making sure everyone has all the documents. And most recently, this whole herbicide waiver situation got extremely mismanaged by the consultants. And they just submitted something yesterday and expected us to bring it up tonight. So
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I'm wasting a lot of time, trying to make sure I've got 20 people all on the same page, so they're not all pissed off when they come to a meeting and don't understand why things aren't moving along. So that is a big part of it. A big part of it also is folks will ask me about the bylaw and then our buffer zone guidelines. So it's been mostly administrative stuff that I really shouldn't have had to handle, but
Yeah, did you
Yeah.
did you try to push back to have them review that with Paul, or I know actually I'm comfortable with having you deal with the especially when they didn't seem to be coming through on it, the herbicide stuff. But with the bylaw questions, Paul should be adequate for that. I'm not sure why, so if you could push that back and over to Paul, so that they cover that and you can work on other things. Because
I think the only last piece, the final, I didn't think we were going to approve the plan at the last meeting because that's the final plan. The plan that got sent to us dated April 1st, and I don't want to get, it was full of red lines, missing information, question marks, and they pressured the commission to approve that, and it was not a final plan. And
I understand that, because this is basically, it's an enforcement order. So that was approved with the understanding that we're looking for certain continuing amendments. So that was done consciously, and basically, so they would continue moving forward on that. But so no, thanks for filling me in there. But that shouldn't be the position you're in. So and yet, each month we think we're closer to the end point, and we wouldn't be paying, you wouldn't have to be putting that time in. But the things that I would like to find out or put time in is relative to what we actually can do on a punitive basis, if you will, under our guidelines and regulations, relative to the lack of basal inches that they're not proposing to meet. I don't know if it seems like we have no ability to collect any funds for that currently. We may in the future under the stormwater bylaw, but this may not even work with that. But it looks like as I understand it, our ability is to require them to do offsite planting. We make reference to a fund that we don't have. Have you had a chance to look into that to see what we might have for options?
Yeah, we don't have an established tree fund, but we could ask them that they could be required to put money in an escrow account that is held only for tree mitigation. But again, there's nothing in our regulations that give us that authority. But it
Mhm.
doesn't mean we can't ask for it as part of the enforcement effort.
And it would seem to me that one of the things might be the workaround on that is that our bylaws our regulations do state that they can plant off-site, but we don't have an off-site place that's currently available. And that we would want to have something funded in order to do that at a later date. Is that a possibility?
That's correct. However, I think the scale of this enforcement action and restoration, we're talking about probably $175,000 at the end of the day. And
For their total cost or for the cost just associated with that? Oh, I know, I'm much higher.
And the alternative, I think, if we push too hard and are not reasonable, is they could walk away and then we're in a litigation situation. So
Well, I'm not even, I think what Jim pointed out was around 200 basal inches difference between what was, by regulation versus what they proposed. And, if we come up with something like that, I just would like you, if you look into that to see if because the other part of that is that we don't have a value per basal inch, that's not in our bylaw. But it's certainly, there are all sorts of things relative to compensation. I mean, the compensation they may have to do privately just to 34, 36 Farm Street would most likely exceed, the figure you just named there. I'm just wondering if for 200 basal inches, if it's $100 an inch, or if we have any sort of variation that, so we come up with an idea of what could be put into an escrow that would cover offsite planting.
that gets really tricky because I don't think it wasn't 200 just in the buffer zone. That included the entire disturbance. So half of the
Yeah, then in that case, it's less than that. Then it should be even easier. But it's more, what I was looking for you would be to find out what our options are for making up the parts of where they can't reach they're not proposing to do their 1.5 to 1. And I think part of it was the pushback I was hearing was that they were thinking the 1.5 to 1 was only within the wetland itself, and also that it may not be required because it wasn't part of a notice of intent. And I don't necessarily agree with that second part.
Yeah, well, the 1 to 1.5 is in our buffer zone restoration guidelines. So that's
buffer zone, okay, not just wetland, but buffer zone, okay.
but also that's our policy. It's not a regulation. It has no teeth. I mean, we could assert that, and I will try to do some kind of assessment, but I'll be honest, I am overwhelmed right now with trying to keep up with the permits that are before us.
Okay, so, well, obviously, because we never get to that that dreamed for $6,000 invoice, because we clearly see all the emails, we know how involved things have been. But it was more, that is something I thought that you might be able to, on a short basis, just look into the number of inches that they may not be qualifying for. But I can ask Paul to do that as well. I just didn't know if you had any insight into, based on how poor our regulations are for recovery, whether we had some way to get anything.
Yeah, our regulations, no. I mean, our buffer zone restoration policy. I mean, we could.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. And I think that was really the only, that was the only thing that jumped out of me of you hadn't been that involved with it, and then I didn't know how that happened. So other people have, but we can't vote on it anyway. So, okay, so that answered the question, but we'll have to vote on it at the next meeting. Let's see, do we have, final thing would be, updates on, under your, agent's report?
Okay, let's see. So we had a number of restoration Requirements, 7 Ledgewood Drive, their planting restoration is done. I was out on site. Aquarian, Old Colony Drive, again, that was an enforcement situation where they had an outfall pipe directly into the wetland. That's been addressed. Let's see, as part of the Charles River Climate Compact, which I'm working on pro bono, they are part of a regional MVP grant. I sent out a letter of support. Our commitment is just $250 for the year, and that's all my time in kind pro bono. So I would like to have just the sense of the commission that you support that.
And its main
Yes, great.
purposes.
Yep, it's the regional flood mitigation project for the Charles River. So it's a collective analysis of using existing flood and projected flood model projects, looking at mitigation measures.
Okay, so I think I think it's useful and helpful. We can't vote on it tonight. The irony is, of all the towns along the Charles, from all those from the projections I saw going for the next century, we are the least affected because we have so much floodplain space. But absolutely, I'm in favor of this. So we'll bring that up at the next meeting.
Okay, great. I sent out the most recent immediate response action report. I sent that out on May 4th. And Lori, if you could reflect that in the document listing for the minutes. So that report, I don't know if people have any questions. They're continuing, they are required to do continuing monitoring, have preventative control measures out there. I don't know if anyone had any questions on that.
No.
The next was Amy had been out to the Bridge Street boat launch area and saw 2 bags of asbestos piping installation. And she had contacted Kevin McCabe and myself. And I talked to Board of Health, I talked to the fire inspector, and there was sort of confusion. Well, who should be doing what? We had under the previous fire inspector hazardous material protocol, but that seems to have gone by the wayside. So I volunteered to put together a townwide hazardous material response procedure and protocol. I have not yet heard back from Kevin McCabe. He was going to, they do have a licensed site professional to handle these things on call. So he was going to, that person go out and evaluate the condition, what's out there, and what it'll cost to have it disposed of.
And do you have access to the old protocol that they had?
I don't. That was with Dave Tiberi.
And nobody did Dave not put it in writing, or nobody knows where to find it, or?
Well, he's retired now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as far as I know, well, I just knew the chain of command was to always call the fire inspector.
Sure. But okay, so there was as far as it's unlikely they actually committed it to writing, I would imagine, but it'd be a nice place to start. But okay, and
Quick question on that one. So maybe I think I emailed you right before the meeting, like 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. I ended up calling DPW because there were a bunch of large trash bags that had been dumped there as well that raccoons seem to have made an art piece out of. So maybe we should put up a sign. I'm not sure. It seems like there's been some strange dumping at the boat launch. Is this normal?
It wasn't a casual dumping at the boat launch. It was about halfway into Fisher Brook. We were trying to find a drier way in that wasn't going to be subject to river flooding to reroute the trail. I was with Tom French and Mike Francis from the trustees trying to figure out if there was an easier way so that we would end up with a short bog bridge instead of a floating carnival.
Mhm.
Beyond our building abilities.
Yeah, well, basically the other way you'd have to like make a dock that floated up and down and yeah, it
Mhm.
was, I mean, the amount of water there when we were trying to get across was just, yeah,
Mhm.
anyway.
So you
So we were
found,
trying to go upstream a little more in Fisher Brook where it was looked a little bit less like there were some uplands that weren't too far away from each other. And then we
Okay.
wouldn't also be subject to the river flooding. We'd only be subject to Fisher Brook flooding. Anyway.
that's
That's
where you
up
found the
there.
bags?
that's
And
where I
that's where you,
found
so weigh in, somebody brought in
weigh in.
multiple bags?
Yeah, they weigh in.
And were they,
Okay.
had they been torn open enough to catch,
I don't think they ever got
envelopes?
closed.
Oh, so were there
Great.
envelopes in there with people's home addresses by any chance, or?
I did not go
Nobody
anywhere
looked.
near them. I looked and I said, I know what that is. No, actually, Mike Francis pointed them out to me and I
Oh,
knew
so
what they
they're,
were
so they're
because
still,
we had them. I had them we had the same stuff in my mom's house in Cambridge when we
Great
went
insulator.
try and sell.
oh, no, oh, so that's where you found the asbestos. Oh,
Yes.
is that what, so it's way in there? Oh, so it's still there. I thought you found other trash beyond the
Oh, that was
asbestos.
me. I
Oh,
found other
Oh,
trash just at
Anna
the
found other
at the pullout.
trash and
Yeah.
I sometimes find, a can or a bottle or whatever, but I
yeah,
haven't.
no, I've
found
I have some
a-
properties where I find, trash bags and trash and people coming off the road to, fill up dumpsters and stuff. And we basically put some gloves on, take down, names and addresses from mail that they foolishly put in there. And then we pay them a visit. But
on their front
sometimes
porch.
sometimes we send them letters, but if it's local, we pay them a visit, and that cuts it back. But this we could, if we run across that, and it's not asbestos, then we can probably send something out on letterhead or whatnot. So the
Yeah, I mean,
asbestos.
if it's the asbestos, they'll find it when they can look, the people who are cleaning up the asbestos. Can look for
No,
that.
so the asbestos. Well, my concern is, so it's just still sitting there, the asbestos, right? And nobody
Yeah,
nobody
right.
knows. They don't. No one's gone in to double bag it or anything like that. They're just, and somebody had to
I'm not
walk
gonna
in.
touch it. You want,
No,
I
no,
mean,
no, I understand that, but nobody walked, so these people whoever did it walked quite a ways into the woods to dump it. Is that, yeah,
yeah, no, nobody's gonna casually run across it unless they really like getting whipped in the face by,
brambles, yeah,
by, the,
Multiflora rose.
yeah, right,
no,
right,
it's just, buckthorn, lots and lots of
Okay.
buckthorn. You won't even be able to see it pretty soon. As soon as the buckthorn is out,
okay.
it's gonna be hell trying to find it.
Okay, well, so we'll,
Probably,
I
so
appreciate that, Janet, coming up with something
Lori
for the
has some.
town there. Lori?
I was just gonna let Amy know that it came up at the inspector's meeting today. The person that Kevin called, they did go out there, they did locate it, they did, like he
Right.
observed it, but the licensed person has to go back out once again and take it out of there. So
Got it.
they're in the process.
They found
Okay.
it. Anyway.
Yep.
Good.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Good, cool. Okay, do we have any other items that anyone would like to bring up?
And just a little more of a heads up on the asbestos removal. No one in any other department has volunteered to cover the costs, so the costs could be coming back to us because it's our land.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be substantial. I have no idea, but this would be, this would,
I've done asbestos removal. It's actually less money than you think, than people normally think. So it may not be that bad, but we'll see. We'll see what they
But
come up with.
also this would be an appropriate request for a reserve fund transfer. It's unforeseen and it's an emergency. So,
No, we have a couple of those coming up, as you're aware. So yep. So that I would not be surprised by it. I'd be surprised if it comes into thousands. It shouldn't be anywhere near that. So any other issues
Yes,
that anyone?
I just have one
Oh.
last thing that just came up. I just got an email yesterday from the developer at One Pagan Lane. They
Mhm.
did get their wetland delineated there. He was asking me, oh, I think I sent this out to everyone, but he was asking me to meet him and to do a design review with him of the permit. They're gonna file for just a road into the property. And he said, we'll come back to you with the house portion of this.
Mhm.
And that's generally something DEP frowns upon. That just doing an NOI piecemeal when you don't know what's being proposed as a total.
So the road has is within the buffer? Was it 50
yes,
feet or something? Yeah,
yes, very close. Yeah.
but with 4.5 acres, is it a very narrow frontage or is it they just don't want to look elsewhere or?
The amount of wetlands on the property is gonna
Mhm.
limit where there are wetlands on in the back and on another side. So I'm not sure, but as long as I've been with the commission, we have never approved a project like just a driveway and then later a house.
Mhm.
So I don't know what people's thoughts were on that. I guess we can go ahead and have them file, and then we could go from there. But I would be very concerned about even approving a roadway when you don't know what kind of other construction is going to be proposed,
Mhm.
including stormwater and it's just, you just don't bifurcate projects like that. So I don't know what kind of.
I could see them looking for guidance, but the idea of a part, so then you might run into that NOI would have to be closed out with with a certificate of completion before they can file the NOI for the house.
That's right, and
Right.
so that could lead to a road to nowhere if we don't
Yeah.
approve the house.
And I
now,
think they're probably looking at doing it so that they can pre-sell it and give people an idea of access or something like that. Why don't we give that some thought? But did he give you a plan at all that shows, was this a Form A that was pulled off of the lot in the front or?
yeah, so I think I sent that out to you, John. There was a plan attached.
Oh, there was, okay. I don't think I saw the plan. Mhm.
And he's looking to file that relatively soon. This is Kevin.
My feeling is he could file it. We can review it and decide if it's something that we think is appropriate. I'm just looking for it.
I just think, well, if we should deny it because it's been bifurcated, then there's an appeal process and a cost, and I just think if it
Well,
would
so
be,
he's already filed an ORAD on it,
yes, there's an ORAD on it, yeah.
and this is 144,888, so it was last year or something?
I don't have that number in front of me. Yes, it was last year. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I am looking for that. Hold on. Oh, no, so I got it from you, but it makes reference to the PDF, but it's not a downloadable PDF, at least the way I got it. Let me see if there's anything else there. Oh, okay, I think it was the earlier email. I'll take a look at them. And we can make a decision. Well, you and I can talk, sometime next week or whenever, and just I share the same concerns, so we'll try to make a read on it.
Okay.
Lori, did you have a question, Lori, or a comment?
Actually, no, I'm all set. I'm just wondering if you might be around for some
For the
signatures
signature?
tomorrow.
Yeah, I can swing by. Mhm.
Yeah, okay, that'd be great.
And will that get you to your magic number, or do we need somebody else?
Nope, that will get the certificate of compliance out, and then I do have some other accounting signatures I'm looking for.
Okay.
And just when you do approve the agent bill, I was gonna just give you a heads up, there's 6,224 left to use in the wetlands protection account.
Okay.
So that leaves 4,762, and I'm
Right, and
For
then,
you to
so we
decide
should,
where you want that to come from.
so we, okay, we can talk about that when I swing
Yeah.
by, and then we should, put the numbers together that we're gonna look for a, reserve transfer like we had done last year.
We're also over in advertising, so I have a reserve fund transfer filled out for that. I just need a signature.
Okay, and so we're gonna be, so that gives us April, so we have a $4,700 deficit for April, and then we have May and June. So we're probably looking at $22,000 to $25,000. Which I think is what we had discussed a number of months ago as we've, looked forward on this. So, okay, I'll see you tomorrow on that.
Okay, thanks.
And hearing no objections, tonight's meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Okay, bye-bye.
Night.